The night was cloaked in a heavy, unnatural darkness. A chill wind swept through the narrow streets of Paris, carrying the scent of damp stone and burning torches. In the distance, a faint, haunting toll of a bell echoed, marking not celebration but the imminent doom of men who had once been untouchable. Shadows moved like phantoms along the walls, cloaking figures whose identities were known only to a select few. In the quiet of the night, there was a tense expectancy, a feeling that something monumental and terrible was about to unfold. Within the fortified halls of the Templar commandery, torches flickered against the cold stone walls, casting grotesque, dancing shadows. The knights, sworn to protect pilgrims and uphold sacred vows, were unaware that betrayal had already found its way into their midst. Outside, horse hooves echoed against cobblestones as armed men moved with a deadly precision. King Philip IV of France, driven by greed and fear of the Templars' influence, had orchestrated an operation that would shake the foundations of the order. And he had done so under the cover of night, ensuring no warning would escape. The first knock on the heavy oak doors was almost polite, almost ceremonial. But in that instant, a sense of impending doom filled the air. Knights, men who had faced battlefields and sieges with unflinching courage, felt a chill of fear that no sword could defend against. As the doors burst open, torches illuminated the armed men. Officers, soldiers, and clerks carrying warrants signed by the highest authority in the land. The Templars were suddenly prisoners, not of foreign armies, but of the very king they had once served with loyalty and honor. Some knights drew their swords instinctively, the metallic ring echoing through the stone halls. Others froze, recognizing the futility. The arrest was swift, calculated, and merciless. Horses stamped impatiently outside, impatient as if sensing the fear and confusion emanating from the commandery. One by one, the knights were bound and led into the cold night. Their silence was both defiance and disbelief. They had survived countless battles, yet here, in the heart of Paris, they were powerless. Whispers spread among the Templars, carrying questions like sparks in dry grass. Who had betrayed them? Was there a spy among the brethren, a man swayed by promises of gold or threats of death? The knights exchanged glances, eyes wide with a mixture of horror and incredulity. Many knew the rumors. They had heard murmurs of the king's envy, his fear of the order's growing wealth and autonomy. But to witness it firsthand was something entirely different. Trust, once absolute, now felt fragile, a brittle mask over the fear that had begun to creep into every heart. The streets of Paris seemed to close around them. Lanterns swung in the cold wind, throwing irregular pools of light on the cobblestones, revealing the faces of ordinary citizens who gawked in stunned silence. Some dared to whisper prayers under their breath. Others clutched loved ones tighter, sensing that the night carried a darkness beyond their comprehension. The Templars, once figures of awe and reverence, were now objects of vulnerability. Their armor, symbols of both protection and power, could not shield them from the weight of political betrayal. As the knights were herded toward the waiting carriages, a subtle tension lingered, unbroken by sound. Every footstep, every clink of iron, seemed amplified in the eerie stillness. Yet beneath the fear, beneath the shock, there was a deeper, more insidious awareness, an understanding that something precious, something sacred, might already be slipping from their grasp. Rumors had long circulated within the order. A treasure of unimaginable value, hidden from the world, a secret so potent it could shake kings and kingdoms alike. And now, as the men were dragged into the night, it became clear that this secret was not merely a legend. Someone wanted it, and they would stop at nothing to possess it. Inside the dim light of one carriage, a young knight, barely 20, sat pressed against the cold wood, heart pounding. His mind raced through memories of battles fought in distant lands, of pilgrimages through harsh deserts, of oaths sworn under sacred altars. None of these prepared him for the betrayal of his own king. He remembered the stories the elder knights had whispered late at night, tales of hidden vaults beneath the stones of Jerusalem, of sacred relics that carried power beyond human understanding. The older men had always spoken of these things with reverence and fear, But tonight, those tales seemed painfully real. Outside the carriage, Paris continued its quiet rhythm, unaware of the tremors that would ripple through the world. The arrest of the Templars was not merely a political maneuver. It was the first act in a drama that would echo across centuries. Whispers of hidden gold, sacred relics, and forbidden knowledge began to take on a life of their own. Even as they were taken away, the knights knew that the story of their order was far from over. There were secrets buried deep, treasures hidden with meticulous care, and knowledge that, if revealed, could change the course of history. By the time dawn approached, the city of Paris had returned to its usual pace, the arrest seemingly swallowed by routine. But in the shadowed halls of prisons and castles, the Templars waited, their minds racing, their hearts heavy. Fear had taken hold, yet within that fear lay determination. Determination to protect what could not be lost, to shield the secrets that had been entrusted to them through generations. The night had fallen, yes, but in its darkness, the first sparks of a legend were igniting. One that would endure for centuries, whispered in hidden chambers, etched into secret maps, and haunting the corridors of history. What had been stolen in the dark of night? What treasure lay hidden beneath the earth, beyond the grasp of kings, popes, and armies? The world would soon wonder, and the Templars, bound and broken, held the answers close. Answers that could not yet be revealed, not without a price that none were willing to pay. Even as the knights were dragged into the cold dawn of Paris, rumors began to swirl like restless spirits. Whispers of a hidden legacy, something so precious that men would kill, betray, and die to possess it, traveled faster than the Templars themselves could have imagined. The treasure of the order was never just gold, coins, or jewels. It was something older, something sacred, veiled in shadow and secrecy, a legacy entwined with the very stones of Jerusalem and the faith that had guided the Templars from the beginning. For generations, the knights had spoken of it only in whispers, in hidden chambers lit by flickering candlelight, where the air smelled of wax, incense, and the must of ancient stone. It was said that the treasure had been gathered during the Crusades. Relics of astonishing value, scrolls of forbidden knowledge, sacred objects taken from the holy sites themselves. Some believed it contained gold enough to fund kingdoms, others that it held fragments of divine power, pieces of a history so secretive that its revelation could shake the foundations of the church. Yet, like all great legends, it was nearly impossible to discern fact from imagination. Tales of the treasure's existence had grown over time, fed by secrecy, fear, and the meticulous guarding of knowledge. Every rumor, every fragment of story, seemed both tantalizingly real and maddeningly out of reach. Even knights themselves did not always know the full truth. Many had been sworn to protect certain keys, certain maps, without knowing what they ultimately unlocked. It was a secret within a secret, layered and protected with the utmost care. Across Europe, whispers of the Templars' wealth had spread long before the night of arrests. Kings and popes alike had heard hints, rumors that the order possessed more than just military strength. The Templars' accounts were shrouded in secrecy, their fortresses repositories of both wealth and knowledge. And yet, the public perception was that they were merely devout knights, guardians of pilgrims, humble in their vows. It was this combination of power hidden beneath a mask of piety that inspired awe and envy. Among the knights themselves, the treasure was both a burden and a beacon. Young men who had grown up hearing tales of sacred vaults and hidden relics often dreamed of finding them, yet feared the responsibility that came with such knowledge. Some spoke of maps encoded in symbols, in the architecture of Jerusalem, where arches and stone patterns hid clues for those who knew how to read them. Others recounted secret tunnels and underground chambers, places that had been used for ceremonies or for safeguarding precious artifacts. The treasure was never just material. It was a story, a history, a promise, and a warning all in one. What made the legend even more compelling and dangerous was that nobody outside the order truly knew its scope. To outsiders, the Templars were a mysterious force. Wealthy, influential, feared, but they had no idea what lay beneath the stones, in hidden vaults or secret maps, protected by oaths that transcended fear and death. For the Templars, the treasure was more than wealth. It was survival, a safeguard against the greed and treachery of kings, and perhaps even a divine mandate. In Jerusalem, the heart of the Templars' world, whispers of this treasure were intertwined with the city's labyrinthine streets and underground caverns. Some claimed that beneath the sacred stones of the Temple Mount, in crypts and tunnels long forgotten, objects of immense value were concealed. Sacred cups, golden reliquaries, ancient manuscripts. Some even hinted at items that could alter the course of faith itself. Pilgrims came and went, oblivious to the secrets beneath their feet, while the Templars moved silently, safeguarding the treasures with lives and oaths. And yet, secrecy alone was never enough. With each passing year, threats grew, not only from external enemies but from those within, from spies, traitors, and ambitious men who coveted the power the Templars seemed to wield. It was this delicate balance of trust and fear that gave the order its strength, but also planted the seeds of its undoing. By the time Philip IV turned his gaze upon them, the order's wealth and secrets had already become a magnet for envy, suspicion, and treachery. Even now, centuries later, the very idea of the Templar treasure still captivates the imagination. Historians debate its existence, explorers seek its hiding places, and writers embellish its legend. But for those who lived through the arrests, the betrayal, and the purges, the treasure was no myth. It was real, tangible, and dangerously close to slipping through their fingers. Some of the Order's most trusted knights vanished in the chaos, taking knowledge with them that may never be recovered. Letters disappeared, maps were destroyed, and sacred artifacts were hidden with meticulous care. It was as if the treasure itself had a mind, eluding capture even as men died trying to claim it. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect of the Templars' hidden legacy was that it challenged what people thought they knew about the world. It was not merely material wealth that drew men to it, but the promise of knowledge, of understanding, of secrets that had been guarded for centuries. Every rumor of a hidden chamber, every account of a coded inscription or a secret map, hinted at something far greater than mere gold. It was a mystery that demanded courage, ingenuity, and a willingness to confront forces that few could comprehend. As dawn broke over Paris, the young knights being led away in chains could not know that the story of their hidden legacy was only beginning. Each step toward imprisonment carried with it the weight of centuries, of secrets that might never be revealed. Yet even in the midst of despair, the treasure lingered in their minds, not just as a hope of wealth, but as a beacon of the Order's true purpose. It was a reminder that no matter how far their enemies reached, some truths could not be easily extinguished. The Templar treasure was not merely something to be possessed. It was something to be protected, something to be revered, something that held the power to reshape the way the world understood history itself. And in that quiet, uneasy morning, as Paris awoke to a city that had already changed, the echoes of the hidden legacy began to stir, reaching across centuries to whisper a single question to anyone willing to listen. What is truly worth protecting, and how far would men go to keep it from falling into the wrong hands? The story of the Knights Templar begins not with grandeur or glory, but with humble devotion, faith forged in the fires of danger. In 1119, a small group of knights, bound by vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, gathered in Jerusalem with a singular mission: to protect Christian pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land. The city itself was a tapestry of tension, beauty, and danger, streets teeming with merchants, pilgrims, and soldiers, and yet shadowed by the constant threat of attack. It was here, amid the splintered stones of sacred sites and the echoes of centuries-old prayers, that the seeds of a legendary order took root. At first, they were mere guardians, walking beside pilgrims along treacherous paths, their swords drawn against robbers and marauders. They lived in austere conditions, sharing meager rations and sleeping under the open sky or in simple shelters. Their devotion was total, their purpose clear: to serve God by protecting those who sought the holy city. Yet beneath this apparent simplicity, there was an undercurrent of something far more profound. Even in these early days, the knights exhibited discipline, cunning, and an instinct for strategy that would set them apart from other warriors. The city of Jerusalem itself seemed to demand both courage and secrecy. Beneath the streets lay ancient cisterns, tunnels, and chambers, relics of civilizations long past. Some scholars suggest that these hidden spaces were already being used for secret meetings, private oaths, and perhaps the safekeeping of sacred objects. The knights were not only soldiers but custodians of knowledge and treasures that could not be trusted to ordinary men. Each mission, each patrol, each act of protection carried with it the silent weight of responsibility for something far greater than the immediate danger of bandits or battle. Their growth was gradual, almost imperceptible. The Templars earned the trust of the Church and the pilgrims, but what truly set them apart was their unwavering discipline and their ability to operate in shadows. They learned to move through Jerusalem and the surrounding lands with precision, their movements almost ghost-like. It was this combination of visibility and invisibility, the public face of devout knights and the hidden operations of strategists and protectors, that laid the foundation for their future power. Within a few years, the order began to attract attention. Wealthy patrons and nobles donated land, money, and influence, often without fully understanding why. The Templars accepted these gifts not as indulgences but as tools to expand their mission, creating fortresses, training grounds, and hidden vaults where they stored not just supplies, but sacred relics and documents. Even in these early years, they understood the necessity of secrecy. Knowledge and wealth, they realized, could be both a shield and a weapon. The knights' reputation grew across Europe as tales of their bravery reached the courts of kings and the halls of monasteries. Stories circulated of knights who had faced overwhelming odds and emerged victorious, of pilgrims rescued from certain death, of sacred sites defended with unmatched devotion. Yet, alongside admiration grew envy. The Templars' combination of martial prowess, religious devotion, and growing influence was unprecedented. Those who looked upon them saw not merely protectors but a rising force, one whose true power was as mysterious as it was undeniable. The early Templars were not just warriors. They were scholars and strategists. They recorded information, studied the land, and developed networks that would later span continents. Maps, letters, and secret codes became part of their daily lives. The order understood that knowledge could protect as effectively as a sword, and that foresight and planning were as crucial as courage. In a world governed by power and fear, information was as valuable as gold, and the Templars were learning to master it all. Even as they trained and patrolled, whispers of treasures from the Holy Land began to circulate. Stories of relics taken from the Temple Mount, objects of devotion imbued with sacred history, found their way into the order's consciousness. The knights were careful, however. Such treasures were not for personal gain but for safekeeping, entrusted to those who had pledged themselves entirely to the cause. The line between protection and possession was delicate, but the Templars walked it with discipline, their every action a testament to both faith and strategy. Jerusalem itself shaped them. The city was a constant reminder of fragility, danger, and the preciousness of history. Every stone seemed to whisper secrets. Every alley held shadows of intrigue. The Templars learned to navigate not only the physical dangers of a contested city, but the invisible perils of politics, religion, and loyalty. They were not mere soldiers. They were guardians of a delicate balance, entrusted with history itself, and with mysteries that may have predated even the city's sacred walls. It was in these years, in the heart of Jerusalem, that the first hints of their legendary secret began to form. The knights were entrusted with knowledge that few could comprehend, treasures that could inspire devotion or greed, and responsibilities that would define their order for centuries. They were trained not only to fight but to think, to plan, and to protect what could not be left to chance. Every ritual, every oath, every mission was a lesson in discipline, secrecy, and vigilance. By the time the Templars were formally recognized by the Church in 1129, they had already transformed from a small band of pilgrims protectors into a force capable of shaping history. Their influence extended beyond Jerusalem, into Europe and the Mediterranean, their reputation as devout warriors tempered by the quiet, almost invisible power of their hidden operations. It was this duality, visible devotion and hidden mastery, that would later make them both revered and feared. Even in these formative years, one truth became clear. The Templars were guardians of more than pilgrims. They were guardians of secrets, of treasures, of knowledge that demanded respect and discretion. And as they looked toward the future, toward a time when the world would seek to claim what they protected, they understood that their legacy would be measured not just in victories on the battlefield, but in the careful preservation of mysteries that might never fully be revealed. The early Knights Templar were more than men in armor. They were the beginnings of a legend that intertwined courage, faith, and secrecy, and one that would eventually lead to the treasures and mysteries whispered about for centuries. The foundations they laid in Jerusalem were the first step in a journey that would take them from humble protectors to the most powerful, mysterious, and controversial order the world had ever known. The first Crusades were more than a series of battles. They were a collision of faith, ambition, and desperation. A tempest that swept across continents and left the world forever altered. Jerusalem, the jewel of the Holy Land, became the prize that countless armies, pilgrims, and mercenaries sought to claim. Its streets were alive with the roar of merchants, the chants of worshippers, and the ominous tread of armed forces. Every stone, every alley, every sacred site bore witness to centuries of devotion and blood. For the fledgling Templars, the Crusades were not merely a backdrop to history. They were the proving ground where loyalty, courage, and cunning were tested in ways no monastery could simulate. Pilgrims traveled across deserts and mountains, braving disease, starvation, and attack, while the Templars moved silently in their midst, guardians in both armor and faith. Their mission was simple on the surface: protect the faithful. Yet beneath it lay a deeper, more perilous task: to safeguard relics, knowledge, and treasures that could not fall into the wrong hands. The battles were brutal, unrelenting, and often unpredictable. Knights faced not only enemy soldiers but treacherous terrain, scorching sun, and the ever-present specter of death. Yet in the chaos of siege and skirmish, the Templars displayed a discipline and coordination that set them apart. They were more than soldiers. They were a shield, a sword, and sometimes the only line between life and death for thousands of pilgrims. Every maneuver, every defense, every victory contributed not only to the immediate survival of the faithful, but to the growing legend of the order itself. Amid the fighting, whispers of hidden treasures began to circulate. The conquest of Jerusalem brought more than strategic advantage. It brought artifacts, relics, and objects of devotion whose significance transcended material value. Some of these items were said to have been housed in the Temple of Solomon, sacred and enigmatic, their powers whispered about but never fully understood. The Templars were often tasked with safeguarding these relics, moving them secretly, storing them in hidden vaults, or guarding them within the fortresses that dotted the Holy Land. Every mission carried a weight that extended beyond the battlefield. It was the preservation of history, faith, and mystery. Jerusalem itself was a city of contrasts. Markets overflowed with spices, silks, and coins, while just beneath the streets, ancient tunnels and cisterns held secrets that few dared to explore. The Templars learned to navigate both realms, visible in their armor, invisible in their knowledge. They became adept at reading not only maps and military strategies, but symbols, inscriptions, and subtle cues that pointed toward hidden chambers and relics. In many ways, the city was a teacher, its walls and stones imparting lessons that would later shape the order's approach to secrecy and treasure. The political landscape was equally perilous. Christian factions fought among themselves as much as they fought against external enemies. Alliances shifted, loyalties were tested, and betrayals were common. The Templars had to maneuver carefully, balancing devotion to their mission with the harsh realities of power. Their ability to survive and even thrive amid such uncertainty was a testament not only to martial skill but to intelligence, foresight, and an understanding of human nature that often went unnoticed by outsiders. It was during this period that stories of the Templars' secretive nature began to spread. Pilgrims and local inhabitants spoke in hushed tones of knights who seemed to vanish into the shadows, of fortresses that held treasures unseen, and of orders given in whispers that carried the weight of fate. The Templars were becoming more than protectors. They were custodians of mysteries, intermediaries between the known and the unknown. Every action on the battlefield, every decision in the council room, Every guarded artifact added to a legacy that would eventually captivate the world. Some historians suggest that the Templars' involvement in the Crusades also brought them into contact with knowledge and objects from civilizations far older than their own. Egyptian scrolls, Roman relics, and hidden manuscripts may have passed through their hands, carefully catalogued and concealed. The exact nature of these treasures remains uncertain, but their influence on the Order's rituals, architecture, and strategic thinking cannot be ignored. Each discovery added another layer to the growing aura of mystery that surrounded the Knights. The human cost of the Crusades was staggering. Lives were lost in the tens of thousands, entire cities were razed, and families were torn apart. Yet amid this devastation, the Templars carved a space for themselves, not merely as warriors but as protectors of a fragile civilization, a bridge between the past and the future. Their reputation grew, fueled by tales of courage, devotion, and mysterious successes that seemed almost beyond human capacity. To contemporaries, they were both awe-inspiring and unsettling, a symbol of faith wielded with precision and power. It was during these campaigns that the first seeds of the Templars' legendary secrecy were planted. The treasures they protected were not always physical. They were codes, knowledge, and rituals, hidden from view but carefully preserved. The Knights understood that true power lay not in brute force but in the control of information and the protection of what others could not see. Even in the heat of battle, their minds were alert to the hidden, the sacred, and the dangerous, preparing them for the challenges that would come in the years ahead. Jerusalem, conquered yet constantly under threat, became both a prize and a crucible. The Templars were tested not only in their skill and faith, but in their ability to protect secrets, preserve relics, and navigate a world where enemies could appear in both armor and cloak. Every victory was tempered with caution, every triumph shadowed by the fear that the treasures and knowledge they guarded might one day draw the envy of kings, popes, and traitors. As the campaigns of the First Crusades concluded, the Templars had emerged not merely as warriors but as a force uniquely positioned at the intersection of faith, power, and secrecy. They had seen the devastation of war, the fragility of life, and the allure of hidden treasures. And as they prepared to return to Europe, they carried with them more than wealth or relics. They carried knowledge, oaths, and secrets that would one day define their legend. The world would remember them as knights of valor, protectors of pilgrims, and warriors of the cross. But beneath this public image lay a more profound truth. The Templars were custodians of mysteries, keepers of treasures that transcended the material, and pioneers of a hidden legacy that would continue to haunt history for centuries. The story of their rise in the First Crusades was only the beginning, a prelude to the enigmatic journey that would take them from the sands of Jerusalem to the shadowed courts of Europe, and ultimately into the depths of legend itself. The Templars returned to Europe not as simple pilgrims or warriors, but as an order transformed by experience, knowledge, and a growing sense of purpose. The Holy Land had tested them in ways few could imagine. The brutality of siege warfare, the intricate politics of Jerusalem, and the responsibility of safeguarding treasures that went far beyond material wealth. When they stepped back onto European soil, they carried with them not only relics and gold but also a profound understanding of power, secrecy, and influence. The seeds of an empire were ready to be sown. It began quietly. Noble families and monarchs, impressed by the Templars' discipline, courage, and reputation, began offering gifts, lands, fortresses, and wealth, seemingly in gratitude. Yet the Templars were careful. They accepted these donations not for personal gain but as tools to strengthen their order, expand their operations, and ensure the protection of their sacred mission. Every acquisition was meticulously planned, every fortress strategically located, and every vault designed with secrecy in mind. Europe, for the first time, felt the presence of an organization that was both religious and extraordinarily powerful. The Order's wealth grew rapidly, and with it, influence. The Templars became more than protectors. They became bankers, financiers, and political advisors. Nobles entrusted them with loans, governments relied on their discretion, and kings sought their counsel. They developed a network of fortified houses, commanderies, and treasuries that spanned the continent, connected by couriers, coded messages, and clandestine passages. Money flowed in, but it was never hoarded carelessly. It was used to fund crusades, fortify strongholds, and safeguard the precious relics they had brought from Jerusalem. In effect, the Templars were building an empire, one rooted in faith but fortified by cunning and strategy. It was during this period that the Templars' reputation for secrecy became almost legendary. Stories spread of knights who could disappear into the shadows of forests and cities, carrying messages, gold, or sacred artifacts that no one else could trace. Their fortresses, often hidden in remote locations or constructed with architectural ingenuity, held chambers that were said to be impregnable. Legends whispered that beneath some of these strongholds lay tunnels leading to secret vaults, repositories of treasures so vast and sacred that even kings would hesitate to ask for them. The Templars were no longer just a military order. They were the guardians of Europe's most coveted secrets. Their rise, however, was not without friction. Nobles and monarchs who had initially welcomed them grew wary. The Templars' wealth, influence, and independence made them both indispensable and threatening. They were men who answered only to their vows and to the Pope, and yet their reach extended into every corner of European power. Envy and suspicion festered in royal courts. Every donation, every fortress, every successful operation only fueled whispers of ambition, secrecy, and potential danger. It was a delicate balance. Too much power could invite destruction. Too little could jeopardize the Order's mission. Meanwhile, the Templars continued to expand their operations in the Holy Land and across Europe. Their fortresses were not merely military structures. They were administrative hubs, financial centers, and vaults for sacred relics. Knights trained not only in combat but in diplomacy, negotiation, and strategy. They became masters of communication, using coded letters, secret signs, and clandestine couriers to coordinate activities across continents. This combination of military skill, financial acumen, and discretion was unprecedented, making the Order both admired and feared in equal measure. The treasures they safeguarded were as varied as they were valuable. Some were mundane, gold, silver, and precious stones, but many were extraordinary. Relics believed to hold spiritual power, manuscripts containing knowledge lost to most of the world, and sacred objects brought from Jerusalem. These items were carefully catalogued, stored, and hidden, sometimes beneath the floors of chapels, inside false walls, or in underground chambers designed to remain undiscovered for generations. The Templars understood that the real treasure was not wealth alone, but the combination of faith, knowledge, and security, all bound together by secrecy. Yet with growth came temptation and risk. The allure of wealth, the promise of influence, and the knowledge of hidden secrets attracted attention. Not all of it friendly. Kings and nobles envied the Order, questioning why an organization of monks should wield such power. Rivals whispered that the Templars were plotting in secret, that their treasures held not only gold but knowledge that could destabilize kingdoms. The combination of awe and suspicion made the Templars both revered and vulnerable. Every move had to be calculated, every secret protected, every act deliberate. Part of their genius lay in their ability to blend visibility with invisibility. Publicly, they were devout knights, attending Mass, protecting pilgrims, and fighting in the name of faith. Privately, they were guardians of secrets, financial strategists, and masters of hidden networks. This duality allowed them to operate with an unprecedented level of autonomy, moving resources and knowledge across Europe with precision. They were the unseen hands shaping events, sometimes guiding kings, other times simply safeguarding treasures that the world was not yet ready to understand. It was during this period of expansion that the first hints of the Templars' ultimate secret began to crystallize. Some believed it was hidden wealth, amassed from years of crusades and donations. Others whispered of sacred relics, items imbued with spiritual or mystical power. There were even rumors of knowledge, texts and manuscripts so ancient that their very existence challenged conventional understanding. Whatever the truth, one thing was certain. The Order's expansion was not only a story of power and wealth but of deliberate, careful concealment. Beneath the bustling streets of Jerusalem, hidden from the eyes of pilgrims and merchants alike, a secret world lay in shadow. Labyrinthine tunnels, vaulted chambers, and concealed passages twisted beneath the city like a living organism, ancient and enigmatic. Some were remnants of civilizations long vanished, Romans, Byzantines, and even earlier builders whose names had been swallowed by history. Others were deliberately constructed, hidden by hands who understood the value of secrecy. For the Templars, these subterranean passages were more than hiding places. They were sanctuaries, vaults, and perhaps the keys to the Order's greatest mysteries. The tunnels were treacherous, narrow in places, wide in others, often flooded with darkness so complete that even a flickering torch seemed to vanish. The air carried the weight of centuries, damp and cold, tinged with the scent of earth and stone. Every step echoed unnaturally, and shadows seemed to shift with intent, as if the very walls were alive. Knights who ventured into these caverns had to rely not only on courage but on intuition, memory, and meticulous planning. One wrong turn could mean being lost forever, swallowed by darkness or trapped beneath centuries of masonry. Accounts of these hidden chambers vary, but the stories share a common thread. The Templars used them to safeguard something far beyond ordinary wealth. Some chronicles suggest that underground chapels were constructed, secret spaces where rituals could be performed without prying eyes. Other accounts speak of vaults filled with gold, silver, and sacred relics brought from the conquered Holy Lands. The true extent of these subterranean networks may never be known, for much of the city above remains unaware of the labyrinth below. It was a city within a city, a hidden Jerusalem where faith, power, and mystery converged. The architecture of these caverns is itself a mystery. Arches carved with precision, stone blocks fitted so perfectly that not even a blade could penetrate, and corridors designed to confuse or mislead. Every element suggests deliberate planning and knowledge of both engineering and secrecy. It is no surprise that whispers arose over the centuries, suggesting that these passages were not merely practical, but symbolic, markers pointing to even greater secrets, perhaps even leading to the Templars' most sacred treasures. The Order's use of these tunnels was not simply defensive. Some historians speculate that they functioned as escape routes during sieges or sudden attacks. Others suggest that they were used for clandestine meetings, councils, and ceremonies, places where vows could be renewed and knowledge passed from one generation of knights to the next. In these hidden spaces, the Templars were free from the watchful eyes of kings, popes, and inquisitors. They could operate according to their own laws, in a world where faith, secrecy, and survival were intertwined. Legends speak of secret doors hidden behind altar stones, stairways concealed beneath mosaics, and passageways so narrow that only the Order's initiated could traverse them. Some tunnels were rumored to descend to catacombs older than Jerusalem itself, connecting with the foundations of the Temple Mount. The most daring claims suggest that relics of immense power, perhaps even fragments of sacred vessels or scrolls containing forbidden knowledge, were hidden deep within these catacombs, awaiting discovery by those deemed worthy. Even today, modern archaeologists and explorers are captivated by the possibility of these hidden chambers. Surveys have uncovered collapsed passages and remnants of structures that defy explanation, hinting at a network that once spanned vast areas beneath the city. Some researchers believe that much remains undiscovered, buried beneath layers of stone, sand, and centuries of construction. For the Templars, these passages were not simply corridors. They were a testament to foresight, cunning, and the determination to protect what must not be lost. But the tunnels were not without danger. Shifting stones, unstable ceilings, and flooding could trap even the most experienced knight. Moreover, the labyrinth itself could disorient, making the uninitiated vulnerable to being lost for days or worse. Those who carried treasures into these passages understood that they were entering a realm where every decision mattered, where one misstep could mean the permanent loss of both life and sacred trust. This peril only heightened the mystique surrounding the Templars' hidden operations. Rumors persisted of secret maps and coded instructions, etched into stone or hidden in manuscripts, guiding select knights through the caverns. Some of these maps were said to contain not only directions but cryptic symbols indicating the location of the Order's most valuable treasures. The knowledge required to navigate this underground world was tightly guarded, passed only to those who had proven themselves worthy through service, loyalty, and unwavering faith. One misinterpretation could mean disaster, and yet the very existence of such maps suggests a deliberate effort to preserve the secrets of the order across generations. Perhaps the most intriguing aspect of these subterranean networks is their connection to the Templars' broader vision. The tunnels beneath Jerusalem were not isolated. They were part of a larger strategy of concealment, communication, and preservation. The order's leaders understood that the treasures they guarded, whether material, spiritual, or intellectual, needed protection from both earthly rulers and external threats. The caverns were not merely hiding places. They were repositories of history, faith, and power, carefully constructed to outlast centuries of upheaval. Even in the absence of physical evidence, the impact of these hidden spaces on the imagination is undeniable. For centuries, the tunnels have inspired tales of adventure, greed, and divine mystery. Writers, treasure hunters, and scholars alike have speculated about what lies beneath Jerusalem, from the mundane to the miraculous. And while much remains conjecture, the Templars' meticulous reputation lends credibility to the idea that these caverns were indeed central to their operations, perhaps even guarding the key to a treasure that would ignite envy, ambition, and obsession for generations. The labyrinth beneath Jerusalem is more than a network of stone passages. It is a symbol of the Templars themselves. Complex, secretive, and carefully constructed, it represents the delicate balance between power and discretion, faith and strategy. Every corridor, every hidden chamber, every vaulted space carries the weight of centuries, holding not just gold and relics but the mysteries that define the order. To step into these tunnels is to enter a world where history, secrecy, and destiny intersect. A world where the Templars' hidden treasures remain tantalizingly close, yet frustratingly beyond reach. And so, the caverns beneath Jerusalem endure as silent witnesses to the Templars' ingenuity, courage, and devotion. They are a reminder that the Order's greatest strength lay not merely in sword or armor, but in foresight, secrecy, and the unshakable belief that some treasures were worth guarding at any cost. Even today, the tunnels whisper to those who dare to listen, hinting at mysteries hidden deep within the earth. Mysteries that continue to captivate historians, explorers, and dreamers alike. Amid the shadows of Jerusalem's secret tunnels and hidden vaults, a language older than the city itself seemed to speak. A language not of words, but of symbols, inscriptions, and cryptic marks etched into stone. These symbols were subtle yet deliberate, placed in alcoves, on columns, and across doorways. They were designed to convey messages to the initiated, warnings to the unworthy, and directions to treasures unseen. The Templars, with their meticulous training in secrecy and strategy, understood this symbolic language as intimately as they understood the sword. These inscriptions were not mere decoration. Some historians believe they were a form of coded communication, meant to guide Templars through the labyrinthine passages beneath Jerusalem. Others suggest that they recorded knowledge too dangerous or powerful to be written plainly in any manuscript, information that could alter the balance of faith or power if discovered by the wrong hands. Symbols of stars, crosses, and geometric shapes hinted at locations, rituals, and truths that only the initiated could interpret. They transformed stone into a silent messenger, speaking across centuries in a language of shadows. One of the most striking aspects of these symbols is their precision. Each mark was deliberately placed, its orientation and depth carefully considered. Knights trained in deciphering these codes could read subtle variations in the carvings. A slight tilt, a deeper etching, a specific sequence of shapes, and derive meaning from them. For the uninitiated, the symbols were invisible, ordinary, or meaningless. But for the Templars, they were keys to understanding, navigation, and protection. To follow these signs was to step into a world where knowledge and faith intertwined in ways that could be both wondrous and dangerous. Some inscriptions were thought to indicate the locations of hidden chambers or vaults, where treasures, both material and sacred, were concealed. Others were warnings, designed to deter the curious, the greedy, or the unworthy. In certain passages, the carvings formed complex geometric patterns, suggesting that the Templars' understanding of architecture, mathematics, and sacred symbolism was far more advanced than commonly assumed. Scholars have speculated that these patterns were not random, but encoded with layers of meaning, each one a piece of a puzzle that could reveal the order's deepest secrets. The symbols also carried spiritual significance. Many incorporated religious iconography, blending faith with secrecy. Crosses intertwined with stars, crescents, and arcane patterns hinted at knowledge that transcended conventional Christian teachings. Some researchers believe that these symbols were part of rituals designed to protect sacred relics, ensuring that only those who had pledged themselves fully to the order could access the treasures. Others suggest that they were intended to preserve wisdom, mapping connections between the physical and spiritual worlds in ways that were deliberately obscured from outsiders. Beyond the symbols themselves, the Templars employed coded inscriptions on manuscripts, maps, and letters. These were not merely encryptions in the modern sense, but complex systems combining language, imagery, and ritual knowledge. The ability to interpret these codes was limited to those who had undergone rigorous training and had been entrusted with the order's deepest secrets. This layer of protection ensured that even if the treasures or maps were discovered, their meaning, and the full extent of what they revealed, would remain hidden. The combination of symbols, secret passages, and hidden vaults created an environment where mystery was not accidental but intentional. Every mark, every corridor, every shadow was part of a carefully constructed network designed to safeguard treasures, knowledge, and faith. To the Templars, secrecy was not just a tactic. It was a moral imperative. The inscriptions were as vital as any sword, serving as guides, warnings, and safeguards, ensuring that the order's sacred mission could continue across generations. Some of the more extraordinary claims about these symbols suggest that they could point toward relics of staggering importance. Legends whisper of items tied directly to the Temple of Solomon, artifacts said to carry spiritual power or knowledge that had been suppressed, hidden, or lost over the centuries. The inscriptions, in this view, were not merely functional. They were guardians of history itself, encoding truths that could shake the foundations of kingdoms, churches, and empires if revealed. The placement of these symbols also demonstrates a deep understanding of human psychology. Many were designed to mislead, to challenge, or to test those who sought entry to hidden spaces. Slightly altered markings could lead intruders astray, while subtle patterns guided the initiated safely through the labyrinth. The Templars were masterful in combining physical engineering, symbolic language, and psychological strategy, creating a system in which treasures and sacred knowledge were nearly impossible to access without permission and understanding. Even today, the legacy of these symbols fascinates researchers, treasure hunters, and historians alike. Archaeologists examining Jerusalem's ancient structures have identified marks that defy easy explanation, inscriptions that may have been overlooked or misunderstood for centuries. Cryptographers and historians continue to debate their meaning, while explorers dream of deciphering the clues that could unlock hidden chambers or reveal lost artifacts. The allure of the Templars' symbolic language lies in its combination of mystery, history, and the promise of something hidden, powerful, and sacred. Yet the true genius of these inscriptions lies not in the physical markings themselves, but in what they represent. The Templars' understanding that knowledge is power and secrecy is protection. Each symbol carried the weight of generations, a silent testament to an order that understood the value of caution, foresight, and faith. They were the keys to a hidden world, a roadmap to treasures and truths that had survived wars, betrayals, and the passage of centuries. For those who glimpsed these symbols in the shadows of Jerusalem, the experience was awe-inspiring and unsettling. They suggested a reality beyond ordinary perception, a world in which faith, strategy, and secrecy intersected. The markings were reminders that the Templars were not merely warriors or protectors. They were custodians of knowledge, masters of hidden networks, and guardians of treasures whose existence challenged conventional understanding. And so, the cryptic symbols of the Templars endure, etched in stone and memory alike, a silent language connecting past and present. They are whispers of a hidden order, hints of treasures yet undiscovered, and keys to understanding the extraordinary legacy of an organization that balanced faith, power, and secrecy with unmatched skill. To study these symbols is to step into the shadows of history itself, where mysteries are preserved, legends are born, and the line between reality and myth blurs in the flickering light of torchlit corridors. Beneath the walls of Jerusalem, in the shadowed tunnels and hidden chambers, the Templars conducted rituals that were as enigmatic as they were sacred. These ceremonies were rarely witnessed by outsiders and often deliberately concealed even from some within the order. The Knights believed that certain objects, certain relics, were charged with spiritual significance, and that access to them required more than faith. It required initiation, understanding, and an unwavering commitment to the order's principles. The rituals themselves were a bridge between the visible world and the hidden, a way of honoring the sacred while ensuring that knowledge and power remained protected from those who might misuse it. Accounts of these rituals vary widely, filtered through centuries of rumor, legend, and fear. Some speak of secret chapels deep underground, their ceilings carved with arcane symbols and their floors etched with geometric patterns that mirrored the stars above. Candles flickered in the dim spaces, casting shadows that seemed to dance with intent, illuminating sacred objects arranged with precision and care. Each movement, each gesture carried meaning. The rituals were not mere formality. They were deliberate acts designed to invoke protection, guidance, and, in some accounts, the favor of divine forces. The objects themselves were extraordinary. Some were sacred relics brought from Jerusalem, perhaps even connected to the Temple of Solomon. Chalices, engraved plates, and golden artifacts were said to radiate a presence that inspired awe and reverence. Other items were manuscripts and scrolls, containing knowledge thought too dangerous or profound to be widely shared. The combination of material and intellectual treasures suggested that the Templars understood power in its most complete form, not merely as wealth, but as insight, influence, and the capacity to shape both faith and history. Initiates into these rituals were carefully chosen. Knights were tested not only in martial skill but in loyalty, intelligence, and discretion. They had to demonstrate an understanding of both physical and symbolic worlds, deciphering inscriptions, interpreting signs, and recognizing the weight of the treasures they were sworn to protect. Only then were they permitted to participate fully, to handle the sacred objects, and to witness the rites that bound the order together. Mistakes, recklessness, or ambition could result in expulsion, or worse. Some scholars suggest that these rituals served multiple purposes. On one level, they reinforced faith and discipline, reminding knights of their vows and responsibilities. On another, they created a network of knowledge and symbols that functioned as safeguards, ensuring that the treasure's location and significance were never fully apparent to outsiders. The ceremonies were a means of encoding secrets, embedding meaning in gesture, symbol, and structure, so that only those properly initiated could comprehend the full scope of what was hidden. The very design of the chambers and the objects within them reflected a deep understanding of symbolism and sacred geometry. Floors were often patterned with intricate mosaics, ceilings adorned with carved stars and celestial diagrams, walls etched with symbols that connected religious teachings to hidden knowledge. Even the placement of objects, chalices, relics, scrolls, was deliberate, forming a map of meaning, protection, and guidance. To an untrained observer, the spaces may have appeared ordinary, even beautiful. But to the initiated, they were alive with purpose, a testament to the Templars' understanding of both faith and secrecy. Legends speak of particular treasures that were central to these rituals, objects that inspired both devotion and fear. Some tales hint at sacred vessels, perhaps the Holy Grail itself or fragments thereof, believed to contain divine essence or knowledge. Others suggest scrolls with forbidden teachings, manuscripts that could challenge conventional beliefs, offering insights into history, religion, and power that were carefully hidden from the wider world. The Templars treated these treasures with reverence and caution, aware that their exposure could provoke both envy and destruction. The rituals also reinforced the hierarchical structure of the order. Participation was not uniform. Higher-ranking knights often performed ceremonies unknown to junior members, while some initiates were entrusted with tasks that required travel, discretion, or the transportation of sacred objects. These layers of secrecy ensured that knowledge was compartmentalized, and that betrayal, should it occur, could not easily compromise the entire order. In this way, the rituals themselves were a form of protection, as much practical as spiritual. Even today, the idea of these secret rituals captures the imagination. Writers, historians, and treasure hunters have speculated about what truly occurred in those underground chambers. Were the ceremonies purely devotional, or did they incorporate elements of knowledge lost to time? Were the relics simple symbols of faith, or keys to understanding something greater? And did the combination of ritual, symbol, and treasure constitute a system that could influence history in ways still unseen? The Templars' legacy suggests that the answers lie hidden, awaiting those with the skill, courage, and patience to discover them. The sacred treasures themselves became a source of tension, not only within the order but in the wider world. Kings, popes, and rival factions speculated about their existence, their value, and their significance. Some believed the Templars had amassed wealth capable of reshaping kingdoms. Others whispered that the objects held knowledge or power that could challenge the church itself. Whether these claims were accurate or exaggerated, they created a climate of envy, suspicion, and danger, a perfect storm that would later contribute to the order's dramatic downfall. Perhaps most striking is the sense of continuity embedded in these rituals. The Templars saw themselves as part of a larger historical and spiritual lineage, a chain linking Jerusalem, the Holy Land, and Europe through faith, secrecy, and devotion. Every ceremony, every guarded relic, every hidden chamber reinforced this connection, creating a tapestry of purpose and meaning that stretched across centuries. To them, the rituals were not merely acts of devotion. They were acts of preservation, of safeguarding a legacy that was both spiritual and temporal, fragile and immensely powerful. The secrecy surrounding these rituals also magnified their impact. For those outside the order, the Templars became figures of mystery, awe, and fear. Tales of initiation, sacred objects, and hidden ceremonies fed rumors, inspired legends, and lent the order an almost supernatural reputation. It was this combination of real-world skill, spiritual devotion, and carefully maintained secrecy that made the Templars simultaneously respected and feared, admired and misunderstood. Ultimately, the rituals and treasures were intertwined. The ceremonies reinforced the sacredness of the objects, while the objects gave weight to the rituals. The night of the Templars' betrayal arrived like a storm without warning. Across Europe, whispers of suspicion had been growing for years, fueled by envy, fear, and greed. Kings and nobles, once eager to bestow lands and treasures upon the order, began to question why these knights, sworn to obedience and chastity, held so much influence, wealth, and knowledge. The Pope himself, under pressure from powerful rulers, came to view the order with suspicion. And on a chilling autumn night in 1307, the meticulously orchestrated machinery of betrayal was set into motion, sweeping across France like an unstoppable tide. Knights were seized in the dead of night, dragged from beds and chambers, and thrown into dark, damp dungeons. Torches flickered in silent corridors as loyal servants witnessed their masters vanish, leaving only fear and confusion behind. The arrests were sudden and absolute, catching even the most disciplined knights unprepared. Betrayal, they realized too late, could come not only from enemies but from those they had served with loyalty, from kings and popes who saw the order's power as a threat to their own authority. The accusations leveled against them were staggering. Charges of heresy, blasphemy, idolatry, and corruption spread like wildfire through the corridors of power. The Templars, men who had devoted their lives to faith, were now portrayed as apostates, conspirators, and enemies of God. Torture was used to extract confessions, and many knights, even under unimaginable pain, refused to admit guilt for crimes they had not committed. The paradox of the order's rise became its downfall. Its discipline, secrecy, and power, which had once ensured survival, now made it a target for annihilation. The betrayal was not only political but profoundly personal. For knights who had sworn oaths of loyalty, who had trained, fought, and prayed together, the night of arrests shattered trust and friendship. Comrades were torn from one another, forced to watch in horror as their brothers were led away to imprisonment and trial. Families who had depended on the order's protection were left vulnerable. The city itself seemed to shudder under the weight of this sudden collapse, and whispers of the Templars' hidden treasures became intertwined with speculation about who might now claim them. In Paris, the arrests were particularly dramatic. The Templar Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, was seized from the order's headquarters, dragged into the cold streets under the glare of torchlight. Soldiers and clerics moved with precision, following a plan that had been coordinated by the king and sanctioned by the church. De Molay, like many of his knights, faced the realization that decades of service, courage, and loyalty could be undone by the combination of envy and fear. Yet even in these moments of despair, there was dignity, as if the knights understood that the values they had lived by could not be erased, even if their order was. The political motivations behind the arrests were clear. King Philip IV of France was deeply indebted to the Templars, their wealth and influence making him both reliant and resentful. The charges of heresy and corruption were convenient tools to justify seizure of their assets, absolve the king of debt, and neutralize a powerful independent force. Yet the stakes went deeper. The Templars' influence extended beyond finances. They held secrets, knowledge, and treasures whose implications were as dangerous as they were mysterious. To seize the order was to gain control of an empire of both material wealth and hidden wisdom. The trials that followed were a spectacle of manipulation, fear, and falsehood. Knights were forced to confess under torture, their words twisted to fit accusations of blasphemy and idolatry. The very rituals and symbols that had preserved their treasures and knowledge were now portrayed as heretical practices, misunderstood by those outside the order. To the world, the Templars' sacred secrets became evidence of corruption. To the order, these were acts of devotion, faith, and guardianship of history and sacred relics. The tragedy of misunderstanding, manipulation, and betrayal was complete. Yet even in the darkest moments, the Templars' secrecy persisted. Many knights took vows of silence, refusing to divulge the locations of treasures, relics, or manuscripts. Some are believed to have hidden key artifacts before the arrests, burying them in tunnels, secret vaults, or remote fortresses. Others may have encoded messages in manuscripts, maps, or inscriptions, ensuring that even if the order was dismantled, the knowledge and treasures they protected would survive. The betrayal did not erase the legacy. It merely forced it further into shadow, ensuring that the true story would become legend. Jacques de Molay's imprisonment and eventual execution symbolized the order's collapse but also its enduring defiance. As he stood before the flames, he is said to have cursed both the king and the pope, declaring that their betrayal would not be forgotten. This moment became a mythic symbol of courage, loyalty, and the price of secrecy. Even as the physical order was dismantled, its ideals, treasures, and mysteries refused to die. The knights had built a system designed to outlast betrayal, and in this they succeeded in a way that would haunt history. The impact of the betrayal extended far beyond France. Across Europe, Templar assets were seized, fortresses dismantled, and members dispersed. Some joined other orders or vanished into obscurity, carrying secrets with them. Rumors swirled about hidden treasures, secret documents, and sacred relics that were spirited away before the purge. Every fortress and hidden vault became a potential hiding place, every knight a custodian of knowledge, every ritual a safeguard against total annihilation. The Templars' legacy, it seemed, was only beginning to move from history into legend. Perhaps most haunting is the idea that the treasures and secrets the Templars had safeguarded may still exist, hidden in places that no one alive today can fully locate. Some speculate that they lie beneath Jerusalem, protected by tunnels, symbols, and rituals. Others suggest they were transported to remote fortresses in Europe or secret locations in distant lands. The betrayal, while devastating, may have ensured the survival of these treasures in ways that were never fully understood by their enemies. The Templars' foresight in secrecy had created a legacy that even betrayal could not erase. The night of the arrests and the subsequent trials stand as a cautionary tale of power, envy, and the fragility of trust. They reveal how an order built on faith, discipline, and secrecy could become a target, not because of failure, but because of success. And yet, in this darkness, the Templars' ingenuity shines. Their hidden tunnels, cryptic symbols, and sacred rituals were not merely remnants of a bygone age. They were lifelines, safeguards ensuring that their treasures, knowledge, and ideals could survive a betrayal so thorough that it would alter the course of history. In this, the story of the Templars becomes more than one of knights, battles, and betrayal. It is a story of secrecy, foresight, and the enduring human desire to protect what is sacred, valuable, and mysterious. It reminds us that history often hides its deepest truths, that power can inspire both awe and fear, and that even in the face of betrayal, the work of those who guard knowledge and treasure can ripple across centuries, shaping myths, legends, and the very way we understand the past. Even as the Templars' public power was dismantled, a shadow of their influence lingered across Europe and the Holy Land. Many knights survived, some quietly assimilating into other religious or military orders, others vanishing into obscurity, taking with them knowledge and treasures that had been safeguarded for generations. The purge that sought to destroy them only amplified the allure of the secrets they protected. Whispers of hidden vaults, sacred relics, and priceless manuscripts spread through courts, monasteries, and marketplaces, growing into a legend that would endure for centuries. The surviving artifacts of the Templars became symbols of mystery and longing. Some were incorporated into churches, cathedrals, and private collections, their origins obscured over time. Others were concealed entirely, placed in underground vaults, secret chambers, or remote fortresses, sometimes even beneath the streets of Jerusalem. The treasures varied widely: gold, silver, jewels, relics connected to biblical history, and manuscripts containing lost knowledge. To the Templars, each item was sacred, a testament to faith and foresight, protected not merely from theft but from misinterpretation or misuse. Among the most tantalizing of these treasures were objects tied directly to the Temple of Solomon. Legends suggest that the knights may have retrieved sacred artifacts from the ruins of the ancient temple, vessels, scrolls, and even fragments imbued with spiritual significance. Some chroniclers claim that these relics held insights into divine wisdom, lost rituals, or secret knowledge that could shift the balance of religious power. While historical proof remains scarce, the consistency of these claims across centuries suggests that the Templars were indeed custodians of objects whose significance went far beyond mere material value. Vaults and hiding places were as ingenious as they were secretive. Knights constructed false walls, subterranean chambers, and escape tunnels designed to confound intruders. Maps and coded inscriptions guided the initiated, while traps and misleading corridors protected against the unwary. Some vaults were beneath bustling cities, hidden beneath chapels or monasteries. Others were remote, located in forests, mountains, or forgotten fortresses. These treasures were not intended to be discovered by the curious or the greedy. They were meant to endure, safeguarded by design, faith, and careful stewardship. Over time, some of these hidden caches were rediscovered, though rarely in their entirety. Artifacts surfaced in private collections, monasteries, or archaeological digs, often stripped of context, leaving more questions than answers. Scholars debate their origins, purpose, and the scope of what remains undiscovered. The enduring mystery is compounded by the Templars' own secrecy. They left behind clues, symbols, and cryptic records, but only to those they deemed worthy. The treasures became part of a puzzle, each discovery revealing only fragments of a larger, more complex design. Some artifacts, particularly manuscripts, suggest that the Templars preserved knowledge that might have otherwise been lost to time. These texts contained insights into military strategy, religious rituals, architecture, and cryptic symbolism. Some scholars even speculate that certain scrolls held philosophical or mystical teachings, encoded to protect them from misuse or misunderstanding. The Templars' approach was meticulous. They understood that the survival of knowledge required more than concealment. It demanded structure, guidance, and layers of secrecy that could withstand centuries of turmoil. The concept of hidden treasure became intertwined with the very identity of the Templars. Unlike ordinary wealth, these items were not merely possessions. They were legacies, symbols of faith, and instruments of preservation. The knights' awareness of the treasure's importance shaped their actions, from the way they constructed vaults to the rituals they performed around them. Each artifact carried not only material value but spiritual and historical significance, bridging the past, present, and future in ways that were carefully guarded and deeply revered. The persistence of these treasures across centuries fueled myths and speculation. Stories circulated of secret Templar vaults beneath European cathedrals, lost relics transported to distant lands, and hidden manuscripts containing knowledge that could alter the course of history. Treasure hunters, historians, and even monarchs were drawn to these legends, but the majority of attempts to uncover them ended in failure or frustration. The Templars' foresight had ensured that discovery was never simple and that only the most discerning, patient, and worthy seekers might approach the truth. The underground networks, cryptic inscriptions, and secret rituals discussed earlier were instrumental in preserving these treasures. Each layer of concealment was designed to protect not only material wealth but sacred knowledge. Vaults were accessible only through codes, symbols, and rituals, ensuring that physical security was paired with spiritual and intellectual discernment. The Templars' genius lay in their understanding that true preservation required more than walls or locks. It required a system that integrated secrecy, loyalty, and faith. Despite the passage of time, the idea of these hidden treasures continues to captivate. Modern explorers and historians debate the locations, authenticity, and significance of remaining artifacts. Jerusalem, the French countryside, remote fortresses in Portugal, and even distant islands have been speculated as possible hiding places. The enduring fascination speaks not only to the material value of the treasures but to the enduring allure of secrecy, faith, and the human desire to uncover what has been hidden for centuries. The Templars' legacy persisted not only in physical artifacts but in the stories and myths that surrounded them. Even after the order was officially disbanded, the symbolism, secrecy, and rituals they developed left a mark on subsequent organizations, inspired legends, and influenced culture, literature, and art. The treasures they safeguarded became both a magnet for intrigue and a mirror reflecting humanity's fascination with mystery, devotion, and the unknown. Perhaps the most compelling aspect of these surviving artifacts is what they reveal about the Templars' understanding of power. They recognized that wealth, knowledge, and relics alone were not enough to preserve influence. Secrecy, strategy, and ritual were equally important. By combining all these elements, they created a system capable of outlasting betrayal, persecution, and the relentless march of history. The treasures were not merely objects. They were the embodiment of a philosophy that intertwined faith, intellect, and foresight. Even today, the notion that some Templar treasures remain undiscovered fuels both scholarly research and popular imagination. Whether hidden in plain sight or buried deep within forgotten tunnels, these artifacts serve as a reminder that history is layered, secretive, and complex. Legends of Templar treasure hunts began almost immediately after the Order's dramatic fall, fueled by whispers, rumors, and tantalizing fragments of truth. Across Europe and the Holy Land, stories circulated of knights secretly transporting sacred relics, of hidden vaults buried beneath cathedrals, castles, and remote landscapes. These tales were colored by both hope and fear. Hope that treasures of unimaginable value might still be recovered, and fear of the consequences for those who dared seek what the Templars had sworn to protect. To follow these legends was to step into a world where history, mystery, and danger intertwined. The earliest accounts speak of clandestine journeys undertaken by surviving knights, sometimes under assumed identities, carrying relics or coded maps to safety. They moved with precision, secrecy, and extraordinary foresight, leaving behind only faint clues in symbols, inscriptions, and coded manuscripts. These journeys became the foundation for centuries of speculation. Where were the treasures hidden, and what knowledge accompanied them? The answers remained elusive, buried beneath layers of secrecy, misinformation, and time. Yet the allure was irresistible, drawing treasure hunters, historians, and adventurers alike into the shadow of the Templars' legacy. Some treasure hunters focused on geography. Castles, fortresses, and ancient churches became focal points for exploration, each stone and passage examined for signs of hidden chambers. Certain locations in France, Portugal, and even remote Mediterranean islands were repeatedly associated with Templar secrets. But the challenges were immense. The Templars had anticipated scrutiny, constructing false walls, secret passages, and labyrinthine networks designed to confound even the most determined seekers. Many who tried to uncover the treasures were discouraged, lost, or never returned, contributing to the growing mythology of danger and mystery surrounding these hunts. Others were drawn to manuscripts, maps, and coded documents, hoping to decode the Templars' intentions. Some texts appeared ordinary, but careful study revealed subtle patterns, cryptic inscriptions, and symbols embedded within. These codes often required a combination of historical knowledge, mathematical skill, and intuition to interpret. The Templars' understanding of cryptography was remarkably advanced for the time, and their methods ensured that only the most perceptive, patient, and persistent could hope to follow their trail. Misinterpretation could lead not only to failure but to real peril, as some documents included warnings or traps intended to protect the treasures. The intersection of myth and history further complicated the treasure hunts. Some claimed that Templar relics included not just material wealth, but sacred objects of profound spiritual significance. Chalices, scrolls, or artifacts tied to biblical events. Others whispered of manuscripts containing hidden knowledge, philosophical or mystical teachings encoded to prevent misuse. These objects, if real, had the potential to alter the understanding of history, religion, or power structures. Whether the legends were accurate or exaggerated, they fueled centuries of exploration, speculation, and intrigue. Over time, certain patterns emerged in these treasure hunts, suggesting the Templars' foresight was extraordinary. Relics were rarely hidden in obvious locations. Instead, they were concealed in ways that integrated geography, architecture, and symbolism. A cathedral's crypt might hold a false wall. A forested hill could hide a subterranean chamber. A monastery's foundation stones could conceal a key artifact. Each hiding place was meticulously chosen, not just for security, but for its ability to endure centuries, withstand scrutiny, and preserve the sanctity of what was stored. The pursuit of these treasures was not without consequence. Many who sought the Templars' secrets became entangled in mystery, obsession, and danger. Some disappeared in remote regions, never to be seen again. Others were driven to madness, consumed by the challenge of decoding symbols, maps, or inscriptions that had been designed to mislead. In this way, the treasures themselves became a crucible, testing the courage, skill, and moral fiber of those who dared pursue them. The Templars had ensured that only the worthy could hope to succeed. Legends also suggest that certain treasures were transported far from Europe, hidden in distant lands to ensure their protection. Some chroniclers point to remote locations in the Middle East, North Africa, or even the British Isles as possible final resting places. In these cases, the treasures were often accompanied by coded instructions, relics, or symbols, forming a complex network of knowledge designed to survive the disappearance or destruction of the knights themselves. Each layer of concealment reflected the Templars' understanding of time, history, and human nature. The greater the danger, the greater the need for foresight and discretion. Treasure hunters were often guided by cryptic signs left in manuscripts, stone carvings, and architectural designs. Symbols etched into chapel walls, patterns in mosaic floors, and inscriptions in obscure manuscripts were interpreted as directions, warnings, or keys to the treasure's locations. The interplay between physical geography and symbolic language was central to the Templars' method of concealment, creating a puzzle that spanned centuries and required extraordinary skill to solve. In this sense, the treasure hunts were as much intellectual challenges as physical quests. The human element of these legends is equally compelling. Many stories describe individuals motivated by faith, curiosity, or greed, each encountering the mysteries left behind by the Templars. Some knights reportedly went to great lengths to safeguard treasures during the Order's fall, creating personal legacies that intersected with the broader mythos. Others, centuries later, risked lives and reputations in the hope of uncovering secrets that might restore lost wealth, knowledge, or spiritual insight. These narratives illustrate how the Templars' influence persisted far beyond their official dissolution, shaping the ambitions and imaginations of countless generations. Even today, the legend of Templar treasure hunts continues to inspire. Archaeologists, historians, and enthusiasts examine ancient fortresses, subterranean tunnels, and cryptic manuscripts, hoping to find evidence of the treasures that once defined the Order's power. While some discoveries have been made, most remain tantalizingly incomplete, adding layers of mystery to the Templars' enduring legacy. Each failed attempt, every fragment uncovered, reinforces the notion that the treasures were never merely material. They were symbols, puzzles, and tests designed to endure centuries of human curiosity and ambition. The enduring fascination with Templar treasure hunts reflects a deeper human desire. The allure of hidden knowledge, sacred objects, and mysteries that transcend time. The Templars' combination of secrecy, strategy, and devotion created a legacy that challenges historians, adventurers, and dreamers alike. Even after the Templars' arrests and the public dismantling of the Order, whispers persisted of knights and treasures vanishing without a trace. Some disappeared during the chaos of the arrests, slipping into hidden tunnels, remote castles, or distant lands, never to be seen again. Others were rumored to have taken sacred relics with them, ensuring that the Order's most valuable possessions would survive the purge. These disappearances, both real and rumored, became a central part of the Templars' mystique, blurring the line between history and legend. The underground networks beneath Jerusalem and in other Templar strongholds played a key role in these disappearances. Hidden tunnels, secret staircases, and concealed chambers provided routes of escape and temporary refuge. Some passages led to catacombs or underground aqueducts, others connected to forgotten fortresses or safe houses. The knights' knowledge of these subterranean routes allowed them to evade capture, transport sacred objects, and continue guarding secrets even as their order crumbled above ground. It was a testament to the Templars' foresight, training, and understanding of both geography and secrecy. These disappearances were often purposeful, part of a larger strategy to preserve the Order's legacy. Knights who vanished were not necessarily abandoning their mission. Many were tasked with safeguarding treasures, protecting relics, or ensuring that knowledge was not lost to enemies. In some cases, these disappearances were carefully orchestrated, with knights leaving behind misleading clues, symbols, or messages designed to obscure their true paths. The complexity of these maneuvers has left historians and treasure hunters struggling to trace the movements of these men across centuries, adding to the sense of mystery surrounding the Templars' final days. Legends tell of knights who disappeared into the wilderness of Europe, carrying sacred objects to remote fortresses or hidden monasteries. Some are said to have crossed seas, finding refuge in distant lands such as Scotland, Ireland, or even the Middle East. These journeys were perilous, requiring skill, courage, and determination, and often entailed navigating hostile territory, evading pursuers, and relying on secret networks of allies. The surviving knights became living symbols of the Templars' resilience, their loyalty to the Order and its mission undiminished even in the face of annihilation. Betrayal and danger were never far behind. While some knights escaped to continue their work, others were captured or killed, often as a result of rival factions seeking to seize the treasures or knowledge they carried. The combination of political ambition, religious pressure, and greed created an environment where trust was scarce, and even the most cautious could fall victim to treachery. Yet the disappearances themselves reinforced the perception of the Templars as elusive, almost supernatural figures, capable of vanishing at will while leaving their enemies frustrated and bewildered. The psychological impact of these vanishings was profound. To contemporaries, knights who disappeared seemed to embody both fear and fascination. Were they ghosts, spirits, or human survivors executing a carefully hidden plan? The uncertainty heightened the Templars' legend, inspiring both awe and paranoia. Across Europe, tales circulated of knights seen in distant lands, bearing cryptic messages, guarding sacred relics, or simply existing as enigmatic reminders of a vanished order whose influence had not entirely faded. Some of the most enduring stories focus on underground chambers that supposedly became permanent refuges for knights and treasures. These hidden vaults were often described as labyrinthine, with multiple layers of security, secret codes, and traps to confound intruders. In Jerusalem, tales speak of caverns beneath the Temple Mount, containing sacred relics, treasures, and manuscripts. Elsewhere, fortresses in France, Portugal, and even the British Isles are rumored to conceal Templar artifacts behind walls that have never been breached. The very idea that these treasures remain hidden centuries later continues to fuel fascination and speculation. These disappearances were not solely physical. Some historians suggest that certain knights disappeared into secrecy by entering religious or scholarly communities, where they could protect knowledge and treasures without attracting attention. In monasteries, universities, and private collections, Templar relics and manuscripts may have been safeguarded, their significance known only to a select few. These efforts ensured that even if the knights themselves vanished from history, their mission and the treasures they guarded could endure in the hands of trusted allies. The interplay between disappearance and legend created a potent mythos. Stories of hidden knights, secret treasures, and underground networks inspired later movements, from the Rosicrucians to modern treasure hunters. The idea that the Templars had foreseen betrayal and created contingencies for survival gave their story an almost prophetic quality. It was as if the order, anticipating its downfall, had deliberately constructed a system in which knowledge, power, and treasures could outlast both enemies and time itself. One of the most compelling elements of these tales is the moral and emotional dimension. Knights who disappeared were not merely protecting wealth, they were safeguarding sacred objects, knowledge, and ideals. Their loyalty, courage, and foresight transformed their disappearances into acts of devotion and strategy, demonstrating a depth of purpose that continues to inspire historians and storytellers alike. Each vanishing knight becomes a symbol of resilience, secrecy, and the enduring human desire to protect what is precious and meaningful. The enduring mystery of these disappearances is compounded by the passage of time. Centuries of construction, destruction, and urban development have obscured many of the tunnels, chambers, and fortresses that once concealed the Templars' treasures. Records were destroyed or falsified, legends were embellished, and the precise movements of surviving knights remain difficult to trace. Yet even today, the very possibility that relics, manuscripts, or treasures remain hidden fuels exploration, scholarship, and imagination. The Templars' disappearances are not merely historical footnotes. They are living puzzles, invitations to uncover secrets deliberately preserved across centuries. Perhaps most haunting is the thought that some treasures may remain undiscovered, not because they are lost, but because the Templars ensured that only those with the right combination of skill, faith, and insight could find them. The underground networks, coded symbols, and hidden chambers were more than protection. They were tests, designed to ensure that the Order's most sacred legacies would not fall into unworthy hands. The disappearances of knights and treasures were thus part of a larger plan, a deliberate strategy to preserve knowledge, faith, and power against forces that sought to destroy them. In this, the Templars' vanishings reflect both genius and tragedy. They demonstrate an understanding of history, human nature, and the fragility of trust, while also highlighting the perils faced by those who serve ideals larger than themselves. The underground networks, the hidden relics, and the vanished knights together form a story of resilience, secrecy, and enduring mystery. A story that continues to captivate, challenge, and inspire centuries after the Order's apparent collapse. Even today, historians, archaeologists, and adventurers are drawn to the idea that the Templars' disappearances were not endings, but transitions. They point to hidden tunnels beneath Jerusalem, abandoned fortresses in France, and obscure records in libraries as evidence that the Knights' mission may have continued in secret, and that the treasures they safeguarded could still lie hidden, awaiting discovery by those who understand their true significance. The Templars' vanishings remind us that history is not only what is recorded, it is what is preserved in silence, shadows, and secrecy, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. As centuries passed, the legends surrounding the Templars' treasures evolved, blending history with myth in a way that continues to fascinate the modern world. The Knights' secretive disappearances, underground chambers, and hidden relics became fertile ground for speculation, inspiring scholars, treasure hunters, and storytellers alike. Across Europe and the Holy Land, the mere mention of Templar artifacts conjured images of vast wealth, sacred relics, and knowledge so profound it could change the course of history. The Order's legacy, it seemed, had transcended its earthly demise, transforming into a mystery that refuses to be fully unraveled. In France, tales of Templar treasure were intertwined with the ruins of ancient fortresses and abbeys. Many believed that castles such as La Rochelle, Geysers, and Montségur concealed hidden vaults filled with gold, relics, and coded manuscripts. Some of these stories claimed that knights had left intricate maps, cryptic inscriptions, or symbolic markers to guide future seekers. Over the centuries, numerous expeditions and digs attempted to uncover these treasures, often finding nothing or only fragments. Yet even failure reinforced the legend. The Templars' foresight had created a puzzle that could withstand centuries of curiosity and exploration. Portugal, too, became a center of Templar lore. The Order's presence in the Iberian Peninsula was significant, and many believe that surviving knights transported treasures and manuscripts to remote fortresses there. Some claim that artifacts were concealed in castles such as Tomar, where underground passages, secret chambers, and religious symbolism intertwine to form an elaborate network of protection. The precision of these constructions suggests that the Templars combined architectural ingenuity with spiritual devotion, ensuring that their treasures would survive both human ambition and the ravages of time. Jerusalem, the heart of the Templars' original mission, remained central to the legends. Beneath the city's ancient streets, hidden caverns and tunnels are said to contain relics brought from the Temple of Solomon or the Holy Sepulchre. Modern archaeologists have discovered sections of subterranean passageways, some carved into bedrock and others constructed as defensive fortifications. Yet many secrets may remain inaccessible. The possibility that sacred artifacts still lie hidden beneath the city fuels imagination and inspires ongoing exploration. Each tunnel is a silent testament to the Templars' skill, devotion, and understanding of both geography and secrecy. Stories of hidden Templar manuscripts add another layer of intrigue. Scholars speculate that these texts contained philosophical, religious, and esoteric knowledge, encoded to protect them from misuse. Some manuscripts may have revealed ancient rituals, forgotten languages, or insights into the Order's understanding of history and power. Over time, these texts have been linked to legends of mystical teachings, secret societies, and even hidden instructions for locating the treasures themselves. The manuscripts serve as bridges between fact and myth, evidence that the Templars' legacy was intellectual as well as material. The modern search for Templar treasures has taken on a global scope. Explorers and historians examine ruins, archives, and underground networks across Europe, the Middle East, and beyond. Some pursue the treasures for historical curiosity, others for personal gain, and yet others for spiritual or mystical reasons. Each expedition is a continuation of the centuries-old fascination with the Order, a reminder that the Templars' influence endures because of the careful balance they maintained between secrecy, strategy, and symbolism. Even the most mundane discoveries, an ancient key, a carved stone, a faded manuscript, are interpreted as potential clues, feeding the legend and inspiring further pursuit. The intertwining of myth and history has created a narrative that is as compelling as it is elusive. The Templars' treasures are rarely described in simple terms. They are said to hold spiritual power, historical significance, and even the potential to alter religious understanding. This combination of material and symbolic value has ensured that the search for Templar artifacts is never purely archaeological. It is a quest that appeals to the imagination, the intellect, and the spirit. The legends invite reflection on faith, secrecy, and the human desire to uncover what has been hidden for centuries. Some modern historians argue that the fascination with Templar treasures is itself a reflection of human psychology. The allure of secrets, the possibility of hidden wealth, and the thrill of mystery combine to create a powerful narrative that transcends time. The Templars, they suggest, understood this dynamic. Their rituals, symbols, and hidden chambers were designed to protect treasures while inspiring awe and fear. The very act of hiding and encoding their legacy ensured that it would endure, not only through physical objects but through stories, myths, and ongoing quests for discovery. The symbolism embedded in Templar artifacts also contributes to their mystique. Chalices, manuscripts, and relics are often described as containing encoded meanings, designed to communicate only with those who understand the order's intentions. Floors, ceilings, and walls were carved with geometric patterns, celestial diagrams, and symbolic motifs, creating a language of secrecy. For centuries, these symbols have been interpreted in countless ways, each generation discovering new potential meanings and forming new theories about the treasure's purpose. The Templars' foresight ensured that even when physical artifacts were lost, the clues embedded in their design would continue to challenge and inspire. Legends of cursed or protected treasures further heighten the intrigue. Some tales claim that those who attempted to steal or desecrate Templar relics met with misfortune, illness, or unexplained accidents. Others suggest that certain treasures were imbued with spiritual safeguards, designed to deter the unworthy. These stories, whether factual or mythic, reinforce the idea that the Templars' treasures were more than material wealth. They were sacred, protected, and alive with the legacy of those who had sworn to guard them. The interplay of danger, secrecy, and reward amplifies the sense of mystery surrounding these artifacts. Across centuries, Templar treasures have inspired literature, film, and popular culture. From historical novels to blockbuster movies, the idea of hidden knights, secret vaults, and sacred relics has captivated audiences worldwide. Yet beyond entertainment, these stories preserve an echo of the Templars' true mission: to protect what was sacred, to guard knowledge, and to ensure that their treasures survived both betrayal and time. The legends are not merely fiction. They are a continuation of the Templars' legacy, reminding us that some mysteries endure precisely because they are worth protecting. Even today, the search continues with modern technology, ground-penetrating radar, archaeological surveys, and digital archives. But the Templars' secrets remain elusive. The enduring mystery of Templar influence challenges our understanding of history itself. The Order's combination of military skill, religious devotion, and intellectual foresight created a network capable of surviving persecution, political intrigue, and the passage of centuries. Hidden in manuscripts, encoded in symbols, and preserved through secret societies, the Templars' knowledge continues to provoke curiosity, inspire exploration, and fuel legends. They were more than knights. They were guardians of wisdom, architects of secrecy, and creators of a legacy that transcends time. Ultimately, the Templars' influence on secret societies, mystical traditions, and hidden knowledge demonstrates the power of foresight, loyalty, and strategic concealment. Their ability to preserve spiritual, intellectual, and material treasures even after the Order's official demise ensured that their story would continue to captivate, challenge, and inspire. By embedding their legacy in rituals, symbols, and teachings, the Templars created a form of immortality, one that exists not in castles or vaults, but in the minds, imaginations, and explorations of generations who seek to understand their mysteries. Modern theories about the Templars' ultimate fate weave together history, legend, and speculation in a tapestry as complex as the Knights' own secretive world. While the official records mark the dissolution of the Order in 1312, stories of surviving knights, hidden treasures, and secret knowledge have persisted for centuries. Scholars, treasure hunters, and mystics alike have debated whether the Templars vanished entirely, or whether they simply transitioned into clandestine operations, preserving their mission in secrecy. Each theory reflects the enduring fascination with an order that combined faith, strategy, and secrecy in ways that have left the modern imagination captivated. One of the most compelling modern theories centers on the survival of Templar treasures beneath Jerusalem. The city, sacred to multiple faiths, was the stage for the Order's most ambitious missions and its greatest triumphs and tragedies. Some historians and explorers believe that the Knights, anticipating the threat of persecution, created hidden vaults beneath the city, storing relics, manuscripts, and sacred artifacts from the Temple of Solomon and the Holy Sepulchre. These underground chambers were said to be protected not only by physical barriers, but by coded symbols, traps, and rituals designed to ensure that only the worthy could access their contents. Exploration beneath Jerusalem has revealed a labyrinth of tunnels, chambers, and cisterns, some of which date back to the Crusader period. While archaeologists have mapped portions of these subterranean networks, many sections remain unexplored or inaccessible due to structural instability or political sensitivity. Modern treasure hunters have long speculated that some of these hidden chambers might contain Templar relics, yet the combination of urban development, religious significance, and centuries of secrecy has kept these treasures tantalizingly out of reach. The very possibility of discovery fuels both scholarly research and the imagination of the public, merging historical inquiry with the thrill of a hidden legacy waiting to be unveiled. The question of what treasures might remain hidden has generated considerable debate. Some theorists suggest that the Templars secured items of immense spiritual significance: chalices, sacred vessels, and scrolls containing lost rituals or secret knowledge. Others argue that manuscripts may encode philosophical, mystical, or even scientific insights, preserved for future generations capable of understanding their meaning. The Templars' emphasis on discretion, loyalty, and intellectual rigor suggests that access to these treasures would require not only skill and courage but insight, wisdom, and perhaps even faith. The combination of material and symbolic value has made these potential discoveries a source of fascination across centuries. One of the most enduring mysteries revolves around coded maps and cryptic inscriptions. Historical documents, surviving manuscripts, and architectural features in Jerusalem and Europe suggest that the Templars left intricate instructions for locating hidden treasures. Symbols carved into walls, geometric patterns embedded in floors, and manuscripts encoded in cryptic scripts have all been interpreted as clues to the Knights' hidden legacy. Modern cryptographers, historians, and archaeologists continue to study these artifacts, hoping to uncover patterns that might lead to lost relics. Yet the Templars' genius lies in the deliberate complexity of these codes. Even partial success is likely to reveal only fragments of the full truth. Some researchers propose that Templar treasures were divided and concealed in multiple locations as a safeguard. By distributing sacred objects, manuscripts, and wealth across distant lands, the Knights ensured that the collapse of the order in one region would not result in the loss of everything. This strategy mirrors their known practices of secrecy and foresight. The treasures were not only protected physically but intellectually and spiritually, with each location possibly requiring unique knowledge or insight to access. The layered concealment has fueled centuries of speculation, driving explorers to search for hidden vaults in Europe, the Middle East, and beyond. Theories about the Templars' survival extend beyond material treasures. Some suggest that surviving knights integrated into other religious or military orders, carrying with them fragments of knowledge and sacred objects. These clandestine networks, if they existed, could have facilitated the preservation of rituals, manuscripts, and strategic insights that would otherwise have been lost. Over time, these hidden continuities may have influenced secret societies, intellectual movements, and even political strategies, embedding the Templars' legacy in ways that are subtle yet enduring. The idea that the order continued in secret, rather than vanishing entirely, adds layers of intrigue and invites speculation about the true extent of their influence. The human drama surrounding these theories cannot be overstated. Tales of knights who disappeared into secrecy, of treasures lost to time, and of guardians sworn to protect sacred knowledge create a narrative of courage, loyalty, and obsession. The Templars' foresight transformed the pursuit of their legacy into a moral and intellectual challenge. Seekers must not only navigate physical obstacles but also interpret symbols, respect sacred boundaries, and demonstrate insight. Each layer of mystery, each vanished knight, and each hidden relic reflects the tension between the known and the unknown, a dynamic that continues to captivate historians, adventurers, and storytellers alike. Even in popular culture, the Templars' hidden treasures and survival theories resonate. From historical novels to films and documentaries, the idea of knights safeguarding sacred relics beneath Jerusalem or hidden in remote fortresses, continues to inspire imagination. Yet beyond entertainment, these stories reflect real historical questions. What did the Templars protect? How did they ensure its survival? And what remains hidden today? Each exploration, whether scholarly or speculative, serves as a bridge connecting modern audiences with a world of faith, secrecy, and courage that once thrived in the shadow of Jerusalem's sacred stones. The enduring mystery also speaks to broader human themes: the desire to protect what is sacred, the pursuit of knowledge, and the allure of secrets that span centuries. The Templars' treasures, both material and intellectual, were more than possessions. They were legacies, entrusted to a select few who could preserve them across time. This vision of enduring guardianship has fascinated explorers, historians, and dreamers for generations, reinforcing the notion that history is not only what is recorded, but also what is hidden, safeguarded, and transmitted through secrecy, skill, and devotion. Modern exploration combines technology with intuition. Ground-penetrating radar, 3D mapping, and digital archival research allow researchers to approach ancient mysteries in ways that were unimaginable in the past. One of the most enduring aspects of Templar mystery lies not in the treasures themselves, but in the coded messages and architectural enigmas they left behind. Across Jerusalem and Europe, the Order's constructions are said to contain hidden meanings, subtle clues, and symbolic references, designed to guide those initiated in their secrets. From fortified castles to sacred chapels, and from subterranean tunnels to intricately carved stonework, every architectural choice may have served a dual purpose: functional and esoteric. The Templars were not merely warriors or monks. They were architects of secrecy, embedding layers of knowledge in stone and space. In Jerusalem, the very stones seemed to whisper secrets. Beneath the Temple Mount, for example, networks of tunnels and chambers have been discovered that suggest deliberate design beyond military or logistical purposes. Some chambers appear to align with celestial events, while others contain carvings, inscriptions, and geometric patterns that hint at hidden knowledge. Scholars have long debated whether these subterranean structures were used primarily for storage, ritual, or both. Yet the meticulous care in their construction, coupled with the Order's known fascination with symbolism and geometry, strongly suggests that the architecture itself was a form of coded communication. Similar patterns emerge in Europe. Templar castles and churches often incorporate complex floor plans, hidden chambers, and seemingly inconspicuous features: niches, false walls, or unusual staircases. Some historians argue that these were intended to protect treasures and manuscripts, while others propose that they were symbolic, meant to reflect spiritual or mystical truths. The blending of practical design with symbolic intent makes the Templars' architecture a puzzle centuries in the making. For those who study it, every angle, every carving, and every alignment offers a potential clue, but also a potential trap for the unwary. Coded inscriptions are another dimension of this mystery. Many Templar manuscripts, whether preserved in European libraries or referenced in chronicles, contain symbols, numbers, or letters arranged in patterns that defy simple interpretation. Some codes appear to involve mathematical sequences, astronomical references, or alchemical symbolism. Scholars who attempt to decipher these messages often find themselves confronting layers of meaning: literal, symbolic, and mystical, each intertwined with the Templars' understanding of faith, knowledge, and secrecy. The Order's mastery of cryptography reflects a sophisticated intelligence, designed to preserve knowledge even in the face of destruction or persecution. The Templars' use of geometric symbolism in architecture further emphasizes their intricate approach. Certain castles, chapels, and ceremonial spaces appear to align with celestial bodies or sacred numerology, suggesting that the buildings themselves were intended as instruments of knowledge, reflection, or ritual. For example, the repetition of particular angles, proportions, or star alignments may have been designed to encode sacred concepts, guide initiates, or safeguard hidden chambers. Each structure becomes a physical manifestation of the Order's intellectual and spiritual depth, a silent testament to a worldview in which geometry, faith, and secrecy were inseparable. Mysteries also surround the Templars' subterranean networks. Many castles and monasteries include tunnels leading to hidden chapels, vaults, or escape routes. These passages, often hidden behind false walls or beneath floors, reflect a meticulous strategy for both protection and concealment. In some cases, the tunnels themselves are symbolic, representing journeys of spiritual transformation or initiation, with each twist and turn reflecting moral or mystical lessons. The Templars' knowledge of engineering, combined with their understanding of symbolism, created spaces that were both practical and profound, blending architecture with coded wisdom. Connections between architecture and coded manuscripts reveal another layer of sophistication. Some historians suggest that maps, floor plans, and symbolic inscriptions were designed to work together, forming a comprehensive system of secret communication. A knight or initiate with the proper knowledge could use these tools to locate treasures, access hidden chambers, or interpret esoteric teachings. This integration of text and space illustrates the Templars' genius in combining intellectual, spiritual, and practical expertise, creating a network of secrets that could endure for centuries. One of the most famous examples of architectural symbolism involves the crypts of European Templar churches. Often hidden beneath the main sanctuaries, these crypts contain unusual stone arrangements, altars, and inscriptions that some believe encode sacred knowledge. Modern researchers have speculated that certain crypts were designed to reflect celestial alignments, sacred geometry, or even biblical narratives. Each element may have served multiple purposes simultaneously: a practical location for storage, a place for ritual, and a coded message for those who could decipher it. The crypts exemplify the Templars' ability to weave secrecy into every aspect of their physical environment. The interplay of symbols, geometry, and hidden chambers also suggests that the Templars sought to control access not merely to treasures, but to knowledge itself. Manuscripts, relics, and architectural clues were often accessible only to those trained in the order's methods, capable of interpreting the complex system of signs. In this sense, the Templars' legacy becomes not just a story of hidden wealth, but a profound meditation on knowledge, loyalty, and discernment. The treasures of the order were as much intellectual and spiritual as they were material. The complexity of these codes is such that even modern technology cannot fully unravel them. Archaeological surveys, 3D mapping, and digital analysis have revealed new insights into Templar architecture, but the layered symbolism often resists straightforward interpretation. Each discovery raises further questions. Why were particular alignments chosen? What do repeated geometric patterns signify? How did the combination of manuscript and structure guide initiates or protect relics? The Templars' genius lies in their creation of a puzzle that engages both mind and imagination, demanding patience, insight, and an understanding of multiple disciplines. Legends also suggest that the Templars encoded moral and spiritual lessons within their architecture. Staircases that lead to hidden chambers, arches that align with celestial events, or inscriptions that combine letters and numbers may have been designed to teach initiates about virtue, faith, and the consequences of ambition. The act of navigating these spaces becomes both a physical and intellectual journey, transforming seekers into participants in a centuries-old system of knowledge. The Templars' architecture, therefore, is not merely a backdrop to history but a living instrument of instruction, protection, and revelation. The integration of architecture, codes, and hidden spaces underscores the Templars' understanding of human nature. Yet even with these tools, the Templars' treasures remain elusive, demonstrating the sophistication of their concealment strategies. Every discovery of a tunnel, chamber, or artifact raises more questions than it answers, illustrating that the Templars' vision was not merely to protect objects, but to create a legacy of intrigue, wisdom, and endurance. Ultimately, the modern search for Templar treasures beneath Jerusalem is more than a quest for gold or relics. It is a journey into history, faith, and human ingenuity. Each theory, each excavation, and each cryptic manuscript serves as a reminder that the Templars were masters of foresight, strategy, and devotion. Their treasures, whether material, intellectual, or spiritual, embody centuries of careful preservation and secrecy. The possibility that some remain hidden beneath Jerusalem, waiting for discovery, sustains a sense of wonder, inspiring scholars, adventurers, and dreamers to continue the search. The Templars' legacy, entwined with the city of Jerusalem, serves as a testament to the enduring power of secrecy, faith, and human ingenuity. The treasures they safeguarded are more than historical curiosities. They are symbols of resilience, devotion, and foresight. Modern theories may never fully uncover the depth of their hidden knowledge, but the pursuit itself reflects the Templars' enduring genius. A world where history, mystery, and faith intersect, inviting each generation to explore, interpret, and imagine what has been carefully concealed for centuries. One of the most enduring aspects of Templar mystery lies not in the treasures themselves, but in the coded messages and architectural enigmas they left behind. Across Jerusalem and Europe, the Order's constructions are said to contain hidden meanings, subtle clues, and symbolic references, designed to guide those initiated in their secrets. From fortified castles to sacred chapels, and from subterranean tunnels to intricately carved stonework, every architectural choice may have served a dual purpose, functional and esoteric. The Templars were not merely warriors or monks. They were architects of secrecy, embedding layers of knowledge in stone and space. In Jerusalem, the very stones seemed to whisper secrets. Beneath the Temple Mount, for example, networks of tunnels and chambers have been discovered that suggest deliberate design beyond military or logistical purposes. Some chambers appear to align with celestial events, while others contain carvings, inscriptions, and geometric patterns that hint at hidden knowledge. Scholars have long debated whether these subterranean structures were used primarily for storage, ritual, or both. Yet the meticulous care in their construction, coupled with the Order's known fascination with symbolism and geometry, strongly suggests that the architecture itself was a form of coded communication. Similar patterns emerge in Europe. Templar castles and churches often incorporate complex floor plans, hidden chambers, and seemingly inconspicuous features, niches, false walls, or unusual staircases. Some historians argue that these were intended to protect treasures and manuscripts, while others propose that they were symbolic, meant to reflect spiritual or mystical truths. The blending of practical design with symbolic intent makes the Templars' architecture a puzzle centuries in the making. For those who study it, every angle, every carving, and every alignment offers a potential clue, but also a potential trap for the unwary. Coded inscriptions are another dimension of this mystery. Many Templar manuscripts, whether preserved in European libraries or referenced in chronicles, contain symbols, numbers, or letters arranged in patterns that defy simple interpretation. Some codes appear to involve mathematical sequences, astronomical references, or alchemical symbolism. Scholars who attempt to decipher these messages often find themselves confronting layers of meaning, literal, symbolic, and mystical, each intertwined with the Templars' understanding of faith, knowledge, and secrecy. The Order's mastery of cryptography reflects a sophisticated intelligence, designed to preserve knowledge even in the face of destruction or persecution. The Templars' use of geometric symbolism in architecture further emphasizes their intricate approach. Certain castles, chapels, and ceremonial spaces appear to align with celestial bodies or sacred numerology, suggesting that the buildings themselves were intended as instruments of knowledge, reflection, or ritual. For example, the repetition of particular angles, proportions, or star alignments may have been designed to encode sacred concepts, guide initiates, or safeguard hidden chambers. Each structure becomes a physical manifestation of the Order's intellectual and spiritual depth, a silent testament to a worldview in which geometry, faith, and secrecy were inseparable. Mysteries also surround the Templars' subterranean networks. Many castles and monasteries include tunnels leading to hidden chapels, vaults, or escape routes. These passages, often hidden behind false walls or beneath floors, reflect a meticulous strategy for both protection and concealment. In some cases, the tunnels themselves are symbolic, representing journeys of spiritual transformation or initiation, with each twist and turn reflecting moral or mystical lessons. The Templars' knowledge of engineering, combined with their understanding of symbolism, created spaces that were both practical and profound, blending architecture with coded wisdom. Connections between architecture and coded manuscripts reveal another layer of sophistication. Some historians suggest that maps, floor plans, and symbolic inscriptions were designed to work together, forming a comprehensive system of secret communication. A knight or initiate with the proper knowledge could use these tools to locate treasures, access hidden chambers, or interpret esoteric teachings. This integration of text and space illustrates the Templars' genius in combining intellectual, spiritual, and practical expertise, creating a network of secrets that could endure for centuries. One of the most famous examples of architectural symbolism involves the crypts of European Templar churches. Often hidden beneath the main sanctuaries, these crypts contain unusual stone arrangements, altars, and inscriptions that some believe encode sacred knowledge. Modern researchers have speculated that certain crypts were designed to reflect celestial alignments, sacred geometry, or even biblical narratives. Each element may have served multiple purposes simultaneously. A practical location for storage, a place for ritual, and a coded message for those who could decipher it. The crypts exemplify the Templars' ability to weave secrecy into every aspect of their physical environment. The interplay of symbols, geometry, and hidden chambers also suggests that the Templars sought to control access not merely to treasures, but to knowledge itself. Manuscripts, relics, and architectural clues were often accessible only to those trained in the Order's methods, capable of interpreting the complex system of signs. In this sense, the Templars' legacy becomes not just a story of hidden wealth but a profound meditation on knowledge, loyalty, and discernment. The treasures of the Order were as much intellectual and spiritual as they were material. The complexity of these codes is such that even modern technology cannot fully unravel them. Archaeological surveys, 3D mapping, and digital analysis have revealed new insights into Templar architecture, but the layered symbolism often resists straightforward interpretation. Each discovery raises further questions. Why were particular alignments chosen? What do repeated geometric patterns signify? How did the combination of manuscript and structure guide initiates or protect relics? The Templars' genius lies in their creation of a puzzle that engages both mind and imagination, demanding patience, insight, and an understanding of multiple disciplines. Legends also suggest that the Templars encoded moral and spiritual lessons within their architecture. Staircases that lead to hidden chambers, arches that align with celestial events, or inscriptions that combine letters and numbers may have been designed to teach initiates about virtue, faith, and the consequences of ambition. The act of navigating these spaces becomes both a physical and intellectual journey, transforming seekers into participants in a centuries-old system of knowledge. The Templars' architecture, therefore, is not merely a backdrop to history but a living instrument of instruction, protection, and revelation. The integration of architecture, codes, and hidden spaces underscores the Templars' understanding of human nature. They anticipated curiosity, greed, and the desire for discovery, and designed their systems to challenge, instruct, and protect simultaneously. Misinterpretation could lead to failure or danger, while careful study and insight could reveal profound truths. In this way, the Templars' constructions were more than buildings. They were tests of wisdom and devotion, meant to endure for generations, shaping the imagination of those who sought to uncover their secrets. Ultimately, the architectural enigmas and coded messages left by the Templars reveal the Order's extraordinary combination of skill, foresight, and intellect. Their castles, chapels, and tunnels are not merely historical artifacts. They are manifestations of a worldview in which knowledge, secrecy, and devotion were inseparable. Every stone, every symbol, and every alignment carries meaning, a whisper from the past designed to challenge, instruct, and inspire. The Templars' genius lies in the integration of physical, intellectual, and spiritual layers, creating a legacy that continues to captivate scholars, explorers, and dreamers alike. The mysteries of Templar architecture remind us that history is not only written in documents or chronicles, but in stone, space, and symbol. The buildings they left behind are not silent. They speak through geometry, inscriptions, and hidden chambers, offering clues to those patient and perceptive enough to listen. In this, the Templars' legacy transcends time. a world where faith, knowledge, and secrecy converge, inviting modern seekers to explore, reflect, and imagine the hidden depths of an order whose influence remains as powerful as ever. Among the most tantalizing aspects of Templar mystery are the rituals that bound the knights together, guided their actions, and protected the sacred relics in their care. These ceremonies were not mere formalities or displays of devotion. They were instruments of secrecy, teaching, and spiritual transformation. Every initiation, oath, and observance was carefully designed to instill loyalty, encode knowledge, and prepare the knights for the extraordinary responsibilities that lay ahead. The rituals reveal a world in which faith and action, secrecy and devotion, were inseparable, shaping the very character of those who served the order. Initiation into the Templar order was said to be a profound, life-altering experience. Prospective knights underwent rigorous testing of skill, courage, and devotion, facing both physical and moral challenges. The process was often shrouded in mystery, with symbolic acts that emphasized obedience, discipline, and the sanctity of their mission. Some accounts suggest that the initiates were presented with sacred objects, led through ritualized journeys in underground chambers, and exposed to encoded teachings that would guide their understanding of the order's deeper purpose. In this way, every knight became not only a warrior but a custodian of knowledge, entrusted with treasures that were both physical and spiritual. The rituals themselves were rich in symbolism. Knights swore oaths that bound them to their brothers, to the order, and to the protection of sacred relics. Symbols, gestures, and phrases were carefully chosen to convey layers of meaning, accessible only to those fully initiated. Some ceremonies may have included cryptic references to the Temple of Solomon, celestial alignments, or esoteric knowledge encoded in geometry and architecture. By participating in these rituals, knights internalized lessons about loyalty, secrecy, and the moral weight of guarding sacred treasures, lessons that would remain vital in times of betrayal and danger. Sacred relics occupied a central role in Templar rituals. Chalices, scrolls, and religious artifacts were not merely objects of veneration. They were symbols of divine authority, historical continuity, and spiritual power. Knights were trained to protect these items with their lives, understanding that their significance extended far beyond material value. Some relics were said to contain hidden messages or encoded knowledge, their spiritual essence intertwined with practical instruction and historical memory. The act of safeguarding these relics elevated the knight's mission from mere military engagement to a sacred trust that would endure for generations. The human drama of these rituals cannot be understated. Knights were often young, drawn from noble families or trained from adolescence, suddenly confronted with a life of strict discipline, moral responsibility, and potential danger. The ceremonies and teachings prepared them for the profound isolation and risk inherent in guarding treasures and knowledge. Many knights faced betrayal from allies, political enemies, and even fellow religious authorities, testing their loyalty and courage. The rituals acted as both preparation and protection, reinforcing bonds of trust and instilling a sense of purpose that could withstand the most severe trials. Some historians suggest that Templar rituals included symbolic journeys through subterranean spaces, reflecting spiritual transformation as well as practical training. Underground chambers, tunnels, and hidden vaults may have served as stages for initiates to confront fears, decode symbols, and internalize the order's secret teachings. These experiences combined physical challenge with intellectual and spiritual instruction, forging knights capable of navigating both earthly dangers and esoteric mysteries. Each ritual became a rite of passage, transforming individuals into guardians of a legacy that transcended time. The Templars' approach to secrecy was deeply intertwined with these rituals. By embedding knowledge and instructions within ceremonies, the order ensured that only fully initiated knights could access the most sensitive information. This dual role of ritual, as both spiritual practice and coded instruction, allowed the Templars to protect treasures, manuscripts, and sacred knowledge even under persecution. The secrecy was not arbitrary. It was a carefully considered strategy, reflecting a sophisticated understanding of human psychology, loyalty, and the risks posed by greed, betrayal, or political ambition. Legends of the rituals often describe dramatic ceremonies involving sacred relics. Some accounts suggest that knights were led to chambers containing treasures from the Temple of Solomon, relics of the Holy Sepulchre, or cryptic manuscripts detailing hidden knowledge. These experiences were designed to impress upon the initiates the sacredness of their mission and the weight of responsibility they bore. The rituals served as reminders that the treasures they protected were not mere objects, but keys to a deeper understanding of history, faith, and human potential. The dangers surrounding these rituals were real as well as symbolic. Knights sometimes faced threats during ceremonies, whether from rival factions, political enemies, or the risk of discovery by those outside the order. The combination of secrecy, sacred responsibility, and potential danger forged a resilience and discipline unmatched in other contemporary orders. This was not simply training. It was a crucible, testing body, mind, and spirit, producing men capable of extraordinary feats of courage, loyalty, and intelligence. The moral dimension of Templar rituals also shaped the order's approach to leadership and responsibility. Knights were instructed to act with discernment, temperance, and courage, qualities essential for protecting both sacred objects and their fellow brothers. These lessons were reinforced through symbolic acts, oaths, and ceremonies, embedding ethical and spiritual imperatives into the daily life of the order. By intertwining morality, secrecy, and ritual, the Templars created a framework in which each knight was accountable not only to the order, but to the sacred mission that defined it. Stories of ritual failure or betrayal highlight the stakes involved. Knights who broke vows, revealed secrets, or failed in their duties were said to face severe consequences, sometimes spiritual, sometimes practical. These narratives reinforced the seriousness of the order's commitments and underscored the human cost of the sacred mission. The rituals were as much about protecting knowledge and treasures as they were about cultivating discipline, character, and loyalty, a reflection of the profound responsibilities entrusted to the knights. Some modern researchers believe that the Templars' rituals also included the study and use of sacred geometry, encoded manuscripts, and symbolic tools. These elements were designed to train knights to perceive patterns, recognize hidden meanings, and navigate complex challenges. The combination of ritual, symbol, and instruction created a holistic system of education, ensuring that initiates could understand both practical and mystical aspects of their mission. In this way, the Templars cultivated not only warriors but thinkers, guardians, and philosophers capable of carrying the order's legacy forward in secrecy. The enduring fascination with Templar rituals lies in their complexity, secrecy, and profound human drama. These ceremonies reveal an order that combined devotion, intellect, and strategy, creating knights capable of extraordinary feats and enduring commitment. The rituals were not mere formalities. They were instruments of transformation, designed to prepare men for a life in which loyalty, courage, and insight were essential. They illuminate the human dimension of the order, demonstrating how faith, secrecy, and responsibility intersected to create one of history's most enigmatic institutions. Ultimately, the Templars' rituals serve as a window into a world where the sacred, the secret, and the human intersect. They were carefully designed to protect knowledge, train initiates, and imbue each knight with a sense of purpose that transcended personal ambition. The ceremonies, sacred relics, and coded teachings reveal the depth of the order's foresight and the seriousness of its mission. The Templars' rituals are reminders that the mysteries they created were not only physical but moral, intellectual, and spiritual, leaving a legacy that continues to intrigue, inspire, and challenge those who seek to understand it. The downfall of the Templars in Europe is one of history's most dramatic tales of betrayal, political maneuvering, and human greed. What began as an order dedicated to protecting pilgrims and safeguarding sacred relics transformed, in the eyes of kings and clergy, into a threat too powerful to ignore. By the early 14th century, the Templars had amassed immense wealth, land, and influence, resources that fueled envy, suspicion, and ultimately, calculated betrayal. The same secrecy that had preserved their treasures and knowledge now became a weapon used against them, as accusations of heresy, blasphemy, and corruption were leveled to justify their annihilation. In France, King Philip IV, known as Philip the Fair, had long coveted the Templars' wealth to fund his wars and consolidate his authority. He saw in the order both a financial opportunity and a political threat. Using accusations of heresy and secret practices, Philip orchestrated a campaign to arrest the knights and seize their assets. On a chilling Friday the 13th, 1307, hundreds of Templars in Paris and across France were rounded up simultaneously. Torches lit the night as men who had once been revered for their courage and piety were dragged from their chambers, accused of crimes that were often fabricated, exaggerated, or impossible to prove. The world of secrecy they had built to protect their treasures became the very excuse for their destruction. The arrests were not isolated. They were part of a carefully coordinated political strategy. King Philip had pressured Pope Clement V, the head of the Church, to sanction the crackdown. By framing the Templars as heretics, he sought to legitimize the seizure of their properties across Europe. The Pope, though hesitant, eventually issued directives to investigate the order, creating a climate of fear, suspicion, and betrayal. Knights who had once been lauded for their courage now faced trials that were both public and humiliating, designed to erode morale, discredit the order, and coerce confessions. Many Templars endured torture, imprisonment, and even execution, all while the true treasures of the order remained hidden, safeguarded from the king's grasp. The human element of the Templars' fall is profound and tragic. Men who had devoted their lives to loyalty, faith, and the protection of sacred objects were forced to confront betrayal not only from secular authorities, but also from the Church itself. Under extreme duress, some knights confessed to acts they had not committed, while others remained steadfast, refusing to betray the sacred oaths they had taken. Families, comrades, and entire communities watched as heroes were reduced to accused criminals, illustrating the stark contrast between the order's moral discipline and the ruthlessness of those who sought its destruction. The psychological warfare employed during this period added to the drama. Knights were isolated, interrogated, and subjected to extreme physical and mental pressure. Torture chambers became grim stages for the unfolding tragedy, where the strongest wills were tested and the most devout were broken. The strategies employed were designed to extract confessions, sow doubt, and eliminate loyalty, revealing the harsh realities of power, greed, and human vulnerability. It was a stark reminder that the Templars' enemies understood not only the value of their wealth but also the power of fear and manipulation. Betrayal came in other forms as well. Some allies, motivated by fear or ambition, abandoned the Templars, leaving them exposed to political and military pressures. Even within the Church, divisions emerged, as different factions debated the legitimacy of the accusations. While some clerics recognized the knights' past service and devotion, others supported the suppression, either out of self-interest or conviction. This internal fragmentation amplified the Templars' vulnerability, transforming an order that had once been disciplined, unified, and feared into a target of political and social collapse. Despite the relentless persecution, many Templars sought to protect their secrets. Treasures, relics, and manuscripts were hidden, moved, or disguised to prevent confiscation. Some knights reportedly escaped to distant lands, taking with them fragments of the order's legacy. Others may have integrated into other religious or military groups, preserving knowledge and artifacts in secrecy. These acts of defiance highlight a remarkable foresight. Even in the face of annihilation, the Templars ensured that their legacy could endure, carried forward by those who understood the value of what had been entrusted to them. The trials themselves became spectacles of power and intimidation. Public confessions, coerced through torture or threat of death, were used to reinforce the narrative of guilt. Yet, these performances often revealed as much about the accusers as the accused. The order's strength, discipline, and secrecy had long inspired fear and respect. In dismantling it, secular and religious authorities exposed the fragility of human institutions and the lengths to which individuals would go to claim power. The story of the Templars' fall is thus not only a historical account but a cautionary tale of ambition, envy, and the human propensity for betrayal. Even after the suppression of the order, whispers persisted. Legends of hidden treasures, secret manuscripts, and surviving knights fueled myths that the Templars had escaped complete destruction. Some claim that knights fled to Portugal, Scotland, and other remote regions, carrying relics and knowledge with them. These stories suggest that the Order's foresight extended beyond physical fortresses and vaults. They created contingency plans to ensure that their spiritual and intellectual legacy could survive even when the organization itself was destroyed. The resilience of the Templar myth underscores their enduring impact on history, culture, and imagination. The fall of the Templars also left a void in European power structures. Their absence altered the balance between monarchy, church, and nobility, demonstrating how an organization built on discipline, secrecy, and spiritual devotion could pose both a threat and a stabilizing force. The consequences of their suppression extended far beyond the immediate persecution, shaping political, economic, and religious developments for decades. The Knights' legacy, hidden in symbolism, architecture, and memory, became a silent yet enduring counterpoint to the power of those who had orchestrated their downfall. The Templars' story is not simply one of defeat. It is a testament to the complexity of loyalty, courage, and the human spirit. While kings and popes sought to erase them, the Order's meticulous secrecy, foresight, and dedication ensured that their influence could survive. Hidden treasures, encoded manuscripts, and symbolic architecture became vessels for a legacy that could transcend persecution. In this way, the Templars' fall is inseparable from their ongoing mystery. The very forces that sought to destroy them only amplified their legend, leaving future generations to wonder, search, and imagine. Ultimately, the downfall of the Templars in Europe reflects the intersection of human ambition, political strategy, and the consequences of extraordinary secrecy. Betrayal, torture, and execution were tools used to dismantle an order that had outgrown the control of kings and clergy. Yet the Order's wisdom, foresight, and devotion ensured that its treasures, rituals, and knowledge endured beyond the immediate calamity. The story of their fall is a powerful reminder that history is not only written by victors, but also preserved in secrets, myths, and legacies that continue to captivate centuries later. The dramatic persecution and suppression of the Templars serve as a prelude to the mysteries that endure today. Their fall illustrates not only the fragility of human institutions in the face of ambition and fear, but also the remarkable endurance of carefully guarded secrets. Hidden beneath castles, within manuscripts, and through coded rituals, the legacy of the Templars survives, inviting each generation to explore, question, and imagine what treasures, both material and intellectual, remain protected, waiting for discovery. As the Templars faced persecution and their order crumbled across Europe, the fate of their treasures became one of history's most enduring mysteries. Scholars, treasure hunters, and historians have long debated whether these sacred and material assets were seized, hidden, or transported to secret locations. The question alone is enough to ignite the imagination. Vast wealth amassed over decades, sacred relics of immeasurable spiritual significance, and manuscripts containing esoteric knowledge, all suddenly threatened by the full weight of kings, popes, and inquisitors. The Templars' foresight and secrecy would be put to the ultimate test as they sought to protect what mattered most. Some believe that a coordinated effort was undertaken by surviving knights to transport treasures to remote regions. France, the epicenter of the crackdown, may have been merely the starting point. Knights fleeing persecution could have moved relics and manuscripts along clandestine routes, through rural estates, monastic networks, and hidden passages, ultimately reaching fortified locations in Portugal, Scotland, and even distant parts of the Holy Land. These journeys would have required extraordinary planning, courage, and resourcefulness, an intricate dance against time, betrayal, and relentless pursuers. Every movement of the treasure was not only logistical but deeply symbolic, ensuring that sacred objects remained in the hands of those who understood their value. Jerusalem, the spiritual heart of the Templars' mission, plays a central role in these theories. Subterranean chambers, cisterns, and tunnels beneath the city have long fueled speculation that some of the Order's most valuable relics were hidden there. Some researchers suggest that secret vaults contained artifacts from the Temple of Solomon, sacred vessels, and documents chronicling lost rituals. These spaces were often designed with dual purposes: practical concealment and encoded guidance. Architectural alignments, geometric patterns, and symbolic carvings may have served as instructions for finding or protecting these treasures, ensuring that only the initiated could access the full cache. Europe, too, is thought to have held hidden troves. In castles and monasteries once controlled by the Templars, hidden chambers and sealed vaults may have concealed gold, silver, manuscripts, and relics. Legends suggest that the knights used secret passageways, tunnels, and escape routes to transport valuables when danger approached. These efforts were not merely acts of preservation. They were strategic moves designed to safeguard the Order's legacy from both human greed and political upheaval. The treasures were never simply material. They were symbols of faith, knowledge, and continuity, representing centuries of devotion and careful planning. The methods by which these treasures were hidden or moved reflect the Templars' meticulous intelligence network. Knights were trained to operate in secrecy, communicate through coded symbols, and interpret architectural clues. They understood that physical concealment alone was insufficient. The knowledge of locations, access points, and protective measures had to be transmitted only to trusted individuals. These measures ensured that even if some treasures were discovered or stolen, other caches would remain protected, preserving the essence of the Order's mission and the integrity of their sacred legacy. Some theorists propose that certain treasures never left Jerusalem, hidden in subterranean labyrinths designed to withstand time itself. These vaults, some aligned with celestial events or geometric patterns, may contain not only material wealth but manuscripts and relics that encode ancient knowledge. The very act of hiding such treasures would have required foresight, skill, and trust among the knights. Each hidden object became part of a network of secrets, a testament to the Templars' ability to preserve the sacred and the valuable against overwhelming odds. Legends of secret transport routes also persist. Knights fleeing France may have carried treasures along coastal passages, hidden rivers, and mountain paths, evading royal patrols and inquisitors. Some accounts suggest that caravans of knights moved precious artifacts across the Pyrenees into Spain or along the coasts of Portugal. Other theories posit that ships carried treasures across the Mediterranean, eventually returning to Jerusalem or being stored in remote fortresses along the crusader routes. The combination of secrecy, strategy, and courage required to execute such missions highlights the extraordinary skill and devotion of the Templars. The human drama surrounding these movements is as compelling as the treasures themselves. Knights risking their lives to protect sacred relics faced not only external threats but internal dilemmas. Trust was paramount. Betrayal could mean the loss of priceless treasures or even death. Decisions had to be made quickly, often in the shadow of relentless persecution. The stakes were extraordinary. Material wealth, spiritual artifacts, and knowledge all rested in the hands of a few, who understood that failure could erase centuries of devotion and sacrifice. Historical documents offer tantalizing clues, though much remains shrouded in ambiguity. Chronicles, letters, and coded manuscripts reference the transport and concealment of Templar assets, yet they rarely provide explicit directions. The absence of clear records is itself a testament to the Order's commitment to secrecy. In some cases, false trails and decoys may have been deliberately created to mislead pursuers, a strategy that ensured the survival of at least some treasures even if others were seized. Every clue, every rumor, and every legend is layered with uncertainty, inviting investigation, speculation, and imagination. The possibility that some treasures were never recovered has fueled centuries of myth, inspiring adventurers, historians, and storytellers alike. The allure of hidden Templar wealth combines the tangible, gold, jewels, and sacred relics, with the intangible, manuscripts containing esoteric knowledge, encoded rituals, and secrets that challenge our understanding of history. Each rumored treasure represents not only material value but the culmination of human ingenuity, foresight, and devotion, preserved under extraordinary circumstances. Even today, the search continues. Modern archaeologists, treasure hunters, and historians examine archives, study architecture, and explore subterranean networks in the hope of uncovering what has been hidden for centuries. Ground-penetrating radar, 3D mapping, and digital reconstruction have revealed new possibilities, yet the treasures remain elusive. Each discovery raises further questions, revealing the layers of ingenuity and foresight employed by the Templars. The very persistence of these mysteries demonstrates the enduring brilliance of an order whose influence has spanned centuries. Ultimately, the disappearance of the Templar treasures reflects both human ambition and human ingenuity. Kings sought to seize them, enemies sought to destroy them, and yet the order's meticulous planning ensured that many treasures survived, concealed in ways that continue to challenge interpretation and discovery. The search for these treasures is more than a quest for wealth. It is a pursuit of understanding, a journey into history, faith, and human cunning. The Templars' legacy, carried through hidden artifacts and secret knowledge, endures as a testament to courage, devotion, and the art of secrecy. The legend of the hidden treasures also reminds us that the past is never fully lost. It waits, concealed in stone, manuscript, or memory, for those who possess patience, insight, and courage. Each rumor, each exploration, and each partial discovery draws modern seekers into the Templars' world, bridging centuries and connecting imagination with reality. The treasures may remain hidden, but the story itself, of knights, devotion, betrayal, and ingenuity, continues to captivate and inspire, keeping the mystery alive for generations to come. The disappearance of the Templars' treasures has fueled centuries of speculation. Some believe the order smuggled their gold and sacred relics to secret locations across Europe or even to the Holy Land. Others suggest the knights encoded their knowledge in manuscripts, architecture, and symbols, leaving clues for future generations. Every legend and theory reflects the extraordinary skill and foresight of the knights, who understood that knowledge and power could be dangerous if unprotected. Modern enthusiasts, historians, and treasure hunters continue to pursue these mysteries. Expeditions trace tunnels beneath medieval castles, search monasteries, and study cryptic manuscripts. Each discovery sparks excitement, yet also raises more questions. Were the treasures spiritual, material, or symbolic? Did the Templars leave instructions hidden in plain sight, or were some secrets designed to remain forever hidden? The fascination lies not only in the potential wealth or power, but in the enduring idea that a vanished order could leave a lasting mark on history. These theories invite us to explore, to imagine, and to question what it means to protect knowledge, to take risks for ideals, and to leave a legacy that transcends generations. The Templars' story is both a puzzle and a moral lesson, a reminder that some mysteries endure precisely because they challenge us to think, to search, and to reflect. The Templars' influence extends far beyond the medieval period. Their story has permeated literature, film, and modern culture, becoming a symbol of mystery, courage, and devotion. From novels to blockbuster films and documentaries, the image of knights guarding sacred secrets continues to captivate imaginations worldwide. Even in popular media, they serve as an archetype of loyalty, secrecy, and the pursuit of knowledge. Secret societies often claim symbolic or philosophical ties to the Templars. Organizations like the Freemasons or Rosicrucians adopt rituals, symbols, and ethical codes reminiscent of the order. While historical continuity is debated, the symbolic inheritance is undeniable. Templar ideals, discipline, loyalty, and guardianship of knowledge continue to inspire those seeking moral or spiritual guidance. Architecture, art, and geography also reflect their enduring presence. Castles, fortresses, and hidden chambers remain monuments to the knights' ingenuity and foresight. Cryptic inscriptions, secret passageways, and symbolic layouts suggest that their influence was carefully embedded in physical spaces. Folklore and legend preserve fragments of their story, blending fact with imagination, ensuring that the Templars' legacy continues to shape human curiosity and exploration. The influence of the Templars extends far beyond the medieval period, reverberating through legend, culture, and the formation of secret societies that claim, in part, their heritage. Even after their official dissolution, the mystique of the order inspired myths, conspiracies, and the imagination of storytellers, philosophers, and seekers of hidden knowledge. Their rituals, codes, and alleged treasures became symbols of mystery and power, shaping cultural memory in ways that blend historical fact with imagination, legend, and speculation. The Templars' story did not end with their persecution. It evolved into a narrative that continues to captivate and influence the modern world. In literature and popular culture, the Templars have become icons of secrecy, courage, and forbidden knowledge. From historical novels to blockbuster films, their image is that of knights guarding sacred secrets, pursued by powerful enemies, and leaving clues that span generations. These representations, while often dramatized, reflect the enduring fascination with an order that mastered both warfare and wisdom. The Templars symbolize the human desire to protect what is sacred, the allure of hidden knowledge, and the tension between authority, faith, and freedom. Their story appeals to our imagination because it exists at the intersection of history, myth, and possibility. Secret societies often invoke Templar symbolism and tradition, claiming a lineage that traces back to the medieval knights. Organizations such as the Freemasons, Rosicrucians, and other esoteric groups have drawn on Templar iconography, rituals, and alleged teachings to craft codes of morality, philosophy, and spiritual discipline. While historical continuity is often debated, the symbolic inheritance is undeniable. Templar ideals of loyalty, secrecy, and guardianship of knowledge continue to inform rituals and practices, blending history with myth to create a framework for ethical, intellectual, and spiritual pursuits. One of the most compelling aspects of this influence is the interplay between secrecy and symbolism. Just as the medieval knights encoded meaning in manuscripts, architecture, and rituals, modern societies adopt symbols, codes, and allegories that connect to Templar tradition. Crosses, geometric patterns, and ritual gestures become vessels of layered meaning, accessible only to the initiated. The legacy of the Templars, therefore, is not only in physical treasures or relics, but also in ideas, ethics, and symbolic systems that continue to resonate across centuries. The cultural impact of the Templars also includes architecture, art, and geography. Former Templar properties, castles, churches, and fortresses serve as living monuments to the order's ingenuity and foresight. Their unique architectural designs, hidden chambers, and cryptic inscriptions inspire scholars and explorers to decode the knowledge embedded in stone. The layout of castles, alignment of walls, and placement of secret passageways reflect a sophisticated understanding of strategy, symbolism, and sacred geometry. These structures are not merely historical artifacts. They are active participants in the ongoing mystery of the Templar legacy. Folklore and legend have further amplified the Templars' cultural resonance. Stories of hidden treasures, sacred relics, and clandestine missions were passed down through generations, often morphing into local myths, coded songs, or oral histories. In some regions, villagers speak of knights arriving in secret, protecting sacred objects, or leaving cryptic markers in the landscape. These oral traditions preserve fragments of history, blending fact and fiction, while keeping the memory of the Templars alive in ways that transcend written records. The lines between legend and reality blur, creating a rich tapestry of mystery that invites investigation and imagination. The Templars' ethical and philosophical teachings have also inspired modern thought. Their emphasis on courage, loyalty, and protection of the sacred resonates with individuals and organizations seeking guidance in moral and spiritual matters. The Knights' combination of discipline, ritual, and devotion provides a model for integrating intellectual rigor, ethical conduct, and personal responsibility. Even in contemporary contexts, Templar-inspired teachings serve as a lens through which to explore the balance of power, secrecy, and human morality. Their influence is both historical and aspirational, inviting reflection on the values that endure across time. Mystery and speculation remain central to the Templars' cultural impact. The idea that their secrets, rituals, or treasures continue to exist somewhere hidden, whether in Europe, the Holy Land, or even symbolically encoded in texts and architecture, creates a narrative that spans centuries. Modern enthusiasts, historians, and treasure hunters pursue these mysteries not only for material gain, but for the thrill of connection to a past that defied destruction. Each discovery, clue, or theory reinforces the notion that the Templars' legacy is alive, woven into the fabric of human curiosity and imagination. The interplay of myth, history, and inspiration also shapes modern conspiracy theories. Speculation about Templar influence on global finance, political power, and religious authority continues to capture popular imagination. While many of these theories are speculative, they underscore the enduring perception of the Templars as guardians of hidden knowledge and agents of power beyond their era. The fascination lies not just in the plausibility of these claims but in what they represent: the human desire to connect with a lost order of exceptional courage, intellect, and devotion. The Templars' influence reaches into spiritual and esoteric practices as well. Certain mystical and philosophical traditions draw on Templar teachings, rituals, and symbolism to explore themes of enlightenment, morality, and divine guidance. The order's emphasis on discipline, secrecy, and moral responsibility resonates in contexts far removed from medieval Europe, suggesting that the Templars' legacy extends beyond material and political influence into the realm of thought, belief, and personal transformation. The spiritual dimension of their impact continues to inspire seekers and scholars alike. Ultimately, the Templars' enduring cultural influence highlights the intersection of mystery, history, and human aspiration. They serve as a bridge between the medieval and the modern, the historical and the legendary. Their story, preserved in stone, manuscript, ritual, and myth, continues to challenge, inspire, and provoke reflection. Whether through secret societies, architectural marvels, folklore, or modern scholarship, the Templars' legacy transcends time, suggesting that some knowledge, devotion, and courage cannot be destroyed. They endure in the collective memory of humanity. The resonance of the Templars in modern culture underscores a profound truth. The most compelling mysteries are those that engage both intellect and imagination. The order's secrecy, courage, and devotion continue to inspire exploration, reflection, and creativity. They remind us that history is not static. It is alive in symbols, stories, and the persistent search for understanding. Every book, film, or expedition inspired by the Templars is part of a continuum that stretches back to the Knights themselves, a testament to the enduring power of mystery and human curiosity. Even today, the Templars invite us to question the limits of knowledge and the value of loyalty, courage, and secrecy. Their influence challenges us to consider what it means to protect what is sacred, to navigate moral and ethical dilemmas, and to preserve knowledge for future generations. The cultural legacy of the Templars is not merely a relic of the past. It is a living, breathing mystery, continuing to shape the ways in which we understand faith, power, and the human desire for discovery. In the end, the Templars exemplify the enduring power of legend, combining historical achievement with mystery, courage, and devotion. Their impact on modern culture, secret societies, literature, and philosophy demonstrates that the order's influence transcends time, inviting reflection on the values, secrets, and mysteries that define human history. The Templars continue to remind us that some stories, carefully guarded and imbued with meaning, are never truly lost. They endure, inspiring awe, curiosity, and wonder for generations to come. The story of the Templars reaches its emotional apex as we reflect on their courage, devotion, and enduring mystery. Persecuted and betrayed, they faced execution and the erasure of their order, yet their legacy persisted. The treasures, manuscripts, and secrets they protected were not mere wealth. They were symbols of foresight, loyalty, and faith. In every hidden chamber, cryptic inscription, or coded text, the Templars left traces of a world where knowledge and devotion were inseparable. Modern seekers, explorers, and historians continue this journey, retracing the Knights' steps through castles, monasteries, and underground networks. Each discovery, each decoded manuscript, is more than a material finding. It is a connection to the Knights themselves, a bridge across centuries that allows us to glimpse their courage and wisdom. The emotional resonance of their story lies in the human stakes. Men risking everything to protect what was sacred, knowing that betrayal and death awaited. This courage, discipline, and moral resolve continues to inspire. Perhaps the greatest treasure of the Templars is not gold or relics, but the lesson that devotion and secrecy, when guided by principle, can outlast time itself. Their legacy challenges us to imagine, to explore, and to reflect. What secrets of the past might still shape the present, waiting for those willing to seek them with patience, courage, and integrity? Even centuries later, the Templars' story lingers in shadows and whispers. Their influence extends beyond history books into legends, architecture, and modern culture. Hidden chambers, cryptic manuscripts, and scattered relics hint at treasures and knowledge that may still be undiscovered. Technology allows unprecedented exploration, yet the essence of their secrecy, the wisdom, ethics, and foresight encoded in their actions, remains intact. The Order's legacy is also moral and philosophical. The Knights safeguarded what was sacred, modeling restraint, courage, and devotion. They remind us that some knowledge and treasures are preserved not for immediate gain but for the protection of future generations. In a world shaped by ambition and greed, the Templars offer a timeless example of dedication to principles greater than oneself. Legends continue to inspire curiosity and imagination. Tales of lost treasures, sacred relics, and cryptic messages fuel exploration and reflection. Whether or not the treasures are ever found, the Templars' story encourages us to consider the moral and ethical weight of knowledge, the value of secrecy, and the enduring power of courage. Their narrative bridges the past and present, leaving a legacy that is both inspiring and mysterious. The Templars' story concludes not with an ending, but with a reflection on endurance, mystery, and human aspiration. Though the Knights were persecuted, their secrets, symbols, and lessons survived centuries. Treasures may remain hidden, manuscripts undiscovered, and legends unresolved. But the Order's legacy persists in imagination, culture, and the quests of modern seekers. Their courage, discipline, and devotion inspire contemplation on values worth protecting. The Knights' secrecy was not selfish. It was an ethical choice, ensuring that knowledge and sacred objects remain safeguarded for those prepared to honor them. This enduring principle challenges us to reflect on our own relationship with history, knowledge, and responsibility. The Templars' mysteries remind us that some stories are never fully complete. The hidden chambers, coded manuscripts, and legendary treasures continue to invite exploration, bridging medieval devotion and modern curiosity. Their legacy teaches that courage, foresight, and devotion can transcend time, leaving questions that spark imagination, wonder, and reflection. Perhaps somewhere, their greatest secrets still wait, offering not just material treasures, but insights into the human spirit, devotion, and the extraordinary power of safeguarding what is sacred.